Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of By the Numbers, the quintessential Counter-Strike podcast. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. Joining me as he always does is my wonderful co-host, Duncan Thorin-Shields. He's a little bit under the weather, straight back from an event, straight into the dentist's chair. And I don't mean having alcohol poured in his mouth, I do mean having dental surgery. But he's graced us with his presence. So just watch out. He might be a little bit tetchy, a little bit feisty. I'm going to try and keep it nice for him. Let's start, though. I mean, it's good to see you at an event in 2018. It was a great event, great, kind of a format and some amazing Counter-Strike that we're going to talk about. You have a good time out there? I noticed you were going fucking ham on the desk.
Yeah, I thought generally it was pretty good. I mean, it was, believe it or not, this might sound weird. I'm not saying this to complain, but the fact that we only did half a day each, basically, actually was a bit strange because I'm just never used to having that happen at events, actually having time off. In fact, what's bizarre is, I have to say, I didn't do a really good job of actually spending that time doing anything because half the time there'd be like a mega game that you wanted to watch, which was what was going on. So most of the time, I just spent my time actually watching the games when I wasn't on the desk. So generally, I thought it was pretty good. But the upside of that arrangement where you were doing half and half, you were teams, is you definitely didn't feel burned out from the actual event, which is good because that's the worst feeling ever is when like the best game of the day is the last one, but you already feel like you were done like an hour earlier, and you just have to make yourself get fired up for it.
Yeah, and they got in touch with me before they put the talent together, but like with all the scheduling I've got going on right now, once again I had to say no, and I would have loved to have been there. But I do like this idea of putting now enough talent where there's a fucking blend so people can take time off. You need to
even
do
the host,
something.
mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Finally, even the host, and it looked like it was a very well put together event in that sense. But also as well, if you looked at the sheer number of people who were there, it wasn't like it was so crazy that it would have like broke the budget, so to speak. It was just the kind of amount you would have at a major anyway. But they were just clever in how they picked it, and there was plenty of analysts to go around, plenty of casters to go around.
Not an elite major, obviously, but those other majors, Rich. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally right. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, fuck me, dude.
All
right. Well,
obviously, by the way, after watching that final and watching Zeus's performance, I got home and I thought something's missing. Get me straight in a fucking dentist chair, have some cunt drilling in my teeth because I need that pain again. I need that fucking extreme pain.
That's what it was, mate. But look, I'm glad that you had a good time at the event. It's a wicked event, and we're going to talk about that and what it all means for the scene and all the shakeups and the results and everything in just a few moments. But there's some news that's been going on, and I'm going to start with, obviously, the next host of the major has been announced. It's been revealed. It was a poor kept secret, if we're being honest about it. I think everybody in the industry knew, and I think it had sort of leaked out, and a few people had talked about it on Reddit and Twitter.
What was bizarre was, if you remember, it leaked during the major.
Yeah, if I remember rightly, I think you're right.
Mad, isn't it?
Yeah. Face It are going to host the next major, and geographically, it's going to be in London. So this is the way you bring Counter-Strike to the UK. We've got no teams, no players of any note, but we are going to be hosting a fucking major. So I'm pretty psyched about it. I think the UK has obviously been an integral part of Counter-Strike history down the years, and sure, that has fallen off of late, but all of the broadcasting talent is well represented by British voices, and you've got organizations like Face It that have their offices, I should say, rather, in London, and have been an integral part of growing CSGO. I think it is fitting that it is going to be going to London, and it's going to be in the SSE Arena at Wembley, 10,000 seats. So this is a real opportunity to blow the fucking roof off, blow the doors off of a great British esports event. So I mean, what's your thoughts about it? Because obviously I know you've worked with all these hosts, all these tournament organizers, been all around the world, especially for the majors. You got a good feeling about Counter-Strike coming home?
I do think it's a good location to have it. Like, I believe that's actually the exact same venue that they did season 3 of ECS in, which was the one that I was at because I think it was the same venue. And actually, they did a pretty good job filling that, I have to say. Admittedly, ECS is like a 3-day event, so that is a different scenario than selling tickets for however long, presumably 3 weeks again. So that is different, but it seemed like a pretty good atmosphere once they got that place full. I actually do think we're at the point now where if you plan it correctly and you know what you're doing selling tickets, you probably can sell out a stadium there, which obviously was not the case in the past. I mean, we've done some of those events years ago where it was paltry, like DreamHack London and that Gfinity. Those were okay crowds, but even then that was like a quarter of the building. They didn't even fill all that up. Like, it was a bit disappointing back then that you couldn't sort of populate the stadium, but especially with the fact that people know so far in advance, I think if they do a good job, they'll probably get it all in that sense. I will say, and by the way, everyone who's like a hater of mine and thinks I only do things like that benefit me, what I'm about to say in no way will benefit me, will only potentially harm my career, which is that I will say that even though I would guess that the way Valve works is more based on how good they think the pitch is, and basically as a result, you know, what your relationship with them is like. So I've no doubt the Faceit guys did a good job in that sense. I will say one thing I thought was a little bit surprising is that of all the people to give it to, they did give it to Faceit. Because if you think about it, right, as far as I know, except for like maybe you could say like that Faceit Stage 2, the one that you guys did in like Valencia, I think it was, right? The one that you did in the middle of 2015. Aside from that, I cannot think of a big event that Faceit did where they either tried to like get a big stadium setting, because remember Faceit Stage 1 was the one that was in the UK. It was the Faceit office or Twitch office or something, and then Stage 3 was at DreamHack Winter, obviously the infamous one where it was your last DreamHack event. And then ever since then, ECS has always been a small tournament. It's always been like a 3-day tournament that generally hasn't been in massive venues to mine. No, it was in Wembley, but my point I'm getting at here is Valve has given the major to someone who, as far as I know, has never done even one of the really big events. They've never done like, you know, I was at Starladder now. That's like an 8-day event. You think of some of these ESLs that they do now. These are 6-7-day events, massive stages. So I don't think that's necessarily a negative, but I think that's certainly interesting, because I would have thought in terms of pitching that a lot of it should go also off what you've done before. Like if you've shown that you can pull off a huge event, and you're more of a shoo-in. So I thought that was a curious point.
No. I think it's worth bringing up, and it makes me wonder actually how important their event in Cancun actually was. Because if you think about it, running an event of that stature and that size in Mexico, where there was a lot of unique infrastructure challenges. You know, I talked to the Faceit guys. You know, it's not as if when you're in a fucking holiday resort in Cancun, if you've got we need 500 miles of fucking Ethernet cable or something, you can't just pick up the phone and call somebody there. So they had to have all their ducks in a row and sort of know exactly where to go and how to deal with things logistically. And obviously, from what I remember, you know, I want to say it was pretty fucking flawless. You know, thinking of it as a viewer, I can't remember any significant delays, any problems, any tech issues. Don't remember any of the players complaining. Certainly the talent said they were all well looked after. And I think having that up your sleeve as a calling card, having like the biggest esports event that's been put on in Mexico with all of the unique challenges, I'm sure Valve will have factored that in when they, you know, were making their decision with Faceit. But also as well, you know, I think we need to talk about how important it is that we do keep having new companies come and have a crack at the major. You know, I think that's super important for the development of the scene. Like, you know,
why is that then?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because I think you know, just because a company does it, say, better than others, you know, like people will always have their favorite major and a favorite take on it. Some people might like, you know, what E-League did. Some people might like what ESL did, you know, whatever, right? But I think everybody does come with their own ideas and their own approach and their own like content creation and how they want to do stuff. And I think it's important to kind of like keep those creative juices flowing. Like a company could come in and absolutely fuck a major up, and in which case they're never going to get a major again. But I think having, you know, different geographies, different companies approach what a major is about and how it should be a celebration of Counter-Strike, I think it's only beneficial, honestly. I don't know if you disagree with that.
Here's the thing. I don't mind letting other people have a go. Yeah, especially if they obviously have an interest in pitch or something, or they're willing to blow the doors off. Like, that's another factor. Obviously, we can't know what goes on in the pitches, but if someone even says, like, I'll spend more or I'll get this venue, you know, I think that's great. With that said, though, the reason why I was curious as to why you said that is because bearing in mind we've got 2 majors a year. Yeah, okay, give one to a new person. But I actually do. I am a bit concerned at the moment that they're never going backwards. Like, where is ESL just never getting a major again? Think how many it's been now. They have some of the best events in the world, ESL Cologne especially. Then you got to add in, like, okay, I can understand in terms of the overall industry why DreamHack might not get one, but some of those DreamHack Masters events are really good. So I just hope this doesn't mean that we're just only going to see all the new people come in, or the recent ones do it. Because I understand, for example, why MLG can't do it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. But I do feel like there's some of these more recent ones do almost feel like it's anyone except the ESL's allowed one.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting take. I can't think why that would necessarily be. I mean, I don't even know if this time did ESL bid for the major. Because there's actually a school of thought among tournament organizers where maybe you don't put in a bid because sometimes that weight of expectation. I will say this: if I'm ESL, I might stop fucking bidding for the major after I booked out all ESL Cologne last year, and you were like, "Haha, we're giving someone a major round, then not you, dickhead, next week." Like that, I would be like, I might be out of this, might be out of just renting venues and paying all the money. Like I could definitely understand that approach. Yeah, but the major as well is, quite difficult in terms of, profit margins and stuff like that for a tournament organizer. You have to hire all the best talent.
That's just weird, Rich, because I know from all the experts in the Dota 2 community that these companies just make millions and millions all the time.
Yeah, I know. I have heard that, but it's like it's
sounds like it's a lost leader, right, for your brand.
No, I don't know. I don't know if I'd go that far, and certainly I don't have anything to do with the particular finances over at E-League, so it's not like I have any specific insight. But what I would say is this: from talking to other TOs that have put majors on, your DreamHack, ESLs, and employees over in that neck of the woods, they say it's a generous budget, but what happens is that you've got to make it the best event. You've got to make it the biggest event. So all of a sudden, it's maybe you take an extra level of precautions you wouldn't for an ordinary event because it absolutely can't go wrong, and that fail-safe runs the budget up that way. Then you've got to hire maybe a bit extra talent. You can make the same joke again if you want, just in case you want to get all the good guys in there and all the community guys in there because it should be a celebration of Counter-Strike. And then on top of that, maybe you want to have an award-winning fucking pyrotechnics display. Maybe you want to have a rock band open up the gate. Whatever it is, everyone's going to have their spin on it, and everyone's going to want to make it the best major of all time. And then all of a sudden, you start looking at those incremental costs, and it does run up. And I'm sure Valve, when they actually award the major to people, I'm sure one of the things they look at isn't just where you're doing it geographically, which apparently is super important to Valve. They want it to be in a different place each time.
They say that. Can you stop booking them in fucking Poland? We've already had about 3 of them there. Fucking hell, how much do I have to ask for? Come on. Again, it's a good factor, right? How many times?
Yeah, well, that's what we call the Thorin rule, dude.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. So look, so you've got that, but obviously as well, I'm sure they look at like ability to deliver a budget plan and what kind of ideas you have, and are you going to be able to sort of meet this? So I'm sure Valve don't take anything lightly when they're giving it out, but I think it is important. If we are only having 2 a year, I want us to get back to 3 a year, maybe even 4, honestly. But I think if we are only going to have 2 a year, I still think it's important that, yes, at least one of those is for somebody new, taking it on for a first time with a new idea, because otherwise we're never going to know if we can raise the bar. One thing I'll say about tournament organizers, it's very easy to get set in your ways. When you've done something, it's worked, and the community like it, there is always that kind of you might just go and rinse and repeat it, right? So I think it's important to have new people come in and say, do you know what, we want to be remembered as the best major. I think about MLG when they came in and did a major. Was there any going in? Was there mad high expectations? Definitely not. Yeah, it's remembered as one of the fucking greatest majors we had. It's remembered so fondly, and not just because of the games, because of what they did. Yeah. And of course, because of the developer-to-developer politics, it seems like maybe they don't get another one ever again, which sucks, obviously. But if MLG, if we'd stuck to the status quo, a brand like MLG would never have got a crack at it either. So. But overall, looking forward to it. Next question. I mean, like, obviously, they've not made any talent announcements. I would fucking move heaven and earth to get there. I've already said James Bardolph. You know, I understand DDK's arm's going to be in a sling for the next 4 weeks because he's having some surgery. Hit me up, brother. I'm ready. I'll fill in for all of Dan's roles, all of Dan's work around the house. I'm ready. You just give me the call because I want to do a fucking major in London. I'd love it.
Yeah. Also, obviously, it's a good spot in terms of like, I mean, I'm assuming nothing with the Brexit will have kicked in by then. But well, obviously, I don't think I've ever heard of anyone have visa problems going to the UK actually in modern days. So it shouldn't be a big an issue, which I will say is one of the downsides of NA, obviously. But it's a place you want to have the tournament, but it is a place infamous for people having visa issues, obviously. So I would hope it means there'll be no visa issues whatsoever. I think everyone can get there. As a venue, it's a pretty decent place.
Yeah, sure.
Here's the thing: I'm not like a mad nationalist or anything, so I wouldn't be like, oh, amazing to have it in my country. Like, if I had to pick, I wouldn't pick London first. I would pick like fucking Copenhagen or something, you know, or Stockholm or something. I'd probably go for one of those myself. But yeah, it's definitely up there. It's one of the better ones.
Maybe.
Or Talbot, yeah.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready.
So yeah, France.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I think Face It have definitely earned it. You know, guys like Michelli. You know, when Face It started and it was like a startup. You know, they did so much in house, and you know, you couldn't imagine them sort of coming as far as they have. So I'm super happy. I think it's a great story, and I hope they you know, fucking do a great job because it would be a sort of fitting high point for them. A couple of other bits of news. Lerpiss, we don't often talk about Lerpiss on the podcast, but usually because he's mainly just doing punditry, but he's always sort of intimated that, you know, hey, like I'm an investment banker, you know, I don't really need to work in esports, but I still watch it and here's my opinions, and he occasionally takes the odd freelance gig. But all of that has changed because it's been announced that he is going to be joining the Immortals brand as a general manager for CSGO. So you're bringing this old veteran player from like Roccat and Evil Geniuses back in 1.6 out of sort of this pseudo retirement he's in to actually come and be a hands-on general manager in, you know, and handle their business operations and content creation. So I just wanted to get your opinion on this because first of all, it wasn't clear to me because he's joining Immortals, and we all know Immortals have acquired MIBR, and they're going to get the SK Gaming Brazil players. So will he be working with the Immortals brand, which technically at that point won't have a CS team, or will he be going with the likes of Fallen and all of those guys over to the MIBR brand? I know you're a bit closer to him than I am, so has he mentioned anything?
I haven't actually asked about that at this point in time. Yeah, it's probably something I should clarify, because I just assumed it meant that. Like, here's the bizarre... In fact, that's one thing I don't really understand, because my assumption was... Maybe because of what they've done in Overwatch, where obviously in Overwatch they can't be called Immortals, so they're just used to the fact you've had to rebrand anyway. My assumption was that MIBR is basically just Immortals CSGO, but it's going to be called MIBR for marketing reasons. But maybe you're right. Maybe it's an Evil Geniuses Alliance scenario and they get two teams.
Yeah, well, I mean, my understanding is that the MIBR brand will have the CS team, and then Immortals won't have a CS team, but it will still be a separate brand. And it'll just operate in the spaces where the Immortal brand is more relevant.
Yes, that's more what I assumed, yeah.
So I mean, with that in mind, with Lerpiss's background in Counter-Strike, there's an implication he'll be working on the MIBR side of things, right?
It sounds like it, yeah. I mean, the part that's interesting to me is that actually this is the sort of move that I think is a long, long time coming in esports, because for so many years, I mean, I know you'll have had this happen. There have been team owners, especially over the last few years, where a lot of money started to get pumped in, who realized, like, as an owner, this is terrible, because most of them got rich in their other businesses by being the guy who started the business, or who knew who to hire, or who knew the industry, or whatever it is. They have to have their finger on some sort of pulse so that they can make their big decisions, unless they're going to delegate everything. And what they found was they came into esports, and a lot of them, because this is how you become a rich guy, they delegated. They just said, all right, I'll get a couple of people. It's going to be my GM. It's going to be my manager. And what they quickly found was, well, fuck, these guys are shit. And not only that, but how do I make the choice of who else to get when basically I'm already sort of delegating because I don't know about the game? So what a lot of them have done is, first of all, scramble around looking for anyone with any sort of veteran status. But even more so, I've had so many times teams say, like, would you consider being like a scout for us or a consultant for us? Or would you come on and do this, that? And so in this scenario, unfortunately, the majority of the people who would be ideal for this sort of job always tell them the same thing. Well, I'm already doing sort of the job I want to do, so no, I wouldn't. And also, if it was a couple of years ago, you also can't really afford me. Like, if you want to pay me just a normal manager's salary, no, I wouldn't leave you what I'm doing now and go and do that for that, mate. Sorry. It's actually been a scenario in a lot of it's the same reason on a lower level why a lot of people won't become coaches who are like talented, etc. You actually make way more as talent. Why the fuck would you pin yourself in like that? Unless you had some bizarre drive to join that one team, it's not really worth it. So we're finally getting to the point now, and I know from Overwatch, etc., this is the case, where they can now afford to pay you a proper fucking job salary. I mean, the fact that this guy isn't at JP Morgan anymore, he's doing this instead, yeah, you know he's getting properly paid. But it's also an important job, and unfortunately there are not many experts that you could get to put in that position where they've got either specific knowledge of a game, or in this case, specific knowledge of a game, and some wider knowledge of the esports industry, because obviously he has a lot of contacts and knows people in the industry. So I think it's a pretty clean slam dunk for them. It's about the best you could do at this point in time. And I expect to see this sort of path gone down by a bunch of people in the next few years, because I feel like that's one of those roles where talent's really short on the ground if you want an actual esports guy to do that.
Yeah, and look, I'm gonna cut loose a little bit, because usually you're the wild one on the show. I'm Mr. Corporate these days, but I'm going to say something. It blows my mind, the fucking absolute detritus, the absolute shit cunts that get invited to take these GM jobs with absolutely no fucking experience. And it's not just that. It's like, I look at these, panels that we have these days. Every month there's an esports fucking panel.
Oh, right? I play a game, no joke. Anytime a poster goes up, like there's this conference going on, my job is I have to see how many I have ever heard of. And I'm not joking, Rich. I don't think I've ever on any panel gotten over like 50% ever.
Yeah. It's mad, isn't it, right? And it's like, I see press releases where it's like 20 people in a company and they're going, we boast over 20 years of each. So what, 1 year apiece on average then? Yeah. And you're like, so in other words, you have no fucking experience in the industry, do you? None at all. And there's people like, I don't understand. Like, I had a run where I was going to these things and doing speaking engagements. And this is another reason why I never liked putting myself into the corner by being a host, right? Because suddenly I went from host to moderator, and I was getting asked to attend these panels, but as a moderator. And I'm like, listen, I've got fucking opinions and insight into how this industry works, but I don't get asked to go and speak at them anymore. It's really weird. It's like that's dried up. Meanwhile, some person who's just been breezing through thinks that fucking Riot Games fucking invented esports, or, I mean, actually, that's some old schoolers at this point. Yeah. You've got people who think that esports began with the Overwatch League, right? And was invented by a guy called Mr. Nanza.
Right? Well, what's hilarious, Rich, actually? You made a joke there, but that's true. There actually are people who did originally think like Riot made they're the cunts now complaining like, you've seen these Johnny come lately's taking our jobs. Like,
I know.
It's like, get out, wild. Fucking cunt.
Yeah, it's like,
tell you what, like, then, you know what, mate? You take him and both of you sliggy fucking hook.
Yeah, so I it's weird. I don't get asked to go and speak at these things anymore. Now, last year, I did have a number of offers, like sort of, very soft offers, where they were saying, look, if you ever wanted to go in and be a GM and like run our org, we would love to have you. But obviously, I'm straight fucking balling out of control with the E-League thing, right? So it's like, but it's weird how long it took for somebody to even because like there's tons of us, like Scoots is a crazy motherfucker. He should probably still be running an organized. Like, how does all of his experience, kind of just get sidelined? Like, he was talking at this panel at Katowice. Another guy who's like criminally underused. This motherfucker's an OG. You've
maybe touched on something tying into what I said that I think might be the key difference maker. Is like I said before, to take the job almost had to be like an aspirational position for you because it's not worth it for the money. Whereas now, that's the difference. Now that you're getting to the point, like, remember, Immortals themselves might have taken on, like, if I had to guess, like, what, 40 million? I mean, they had the NALCS spot they were trying to get. They have the Overwatch League. They've obviously got lots of money otherwise. If you're going to take on that level of investment, just pay what the people fucking need to get someone actually competent. Like, even if it's like 200 grand a year, you've got to do it. At this point in time, it's 200 grand to potentially make your team millions and millions. So it's worth it, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. So here's a quick question. Is it something you think you would ever do?
It's certainly something that like one day I might be interested in. The big problem I have is like I always used to think like, oh, eventually, I'm sure I'll get sick of journalism, and especially in terms of doing events, like, I'll get sick of doing that. I actually don't think I do. Like I think it's the things around it that I get sick of. Like for example, that's why the Starlight event was great for me, because I didn't feel burned out or knackered or like I was pushed to the limit by the event, and therefore like, oh, how many more of these can I do? So actually, I could probably keep doing events for many more years. Journalism, I think, actually, especially with the setup I've got, where like basically I had to decide when I do it all, I could probably do that a long time, as long as I didn't somehow stop giving a flying fuck about all the games. That's probably the only thing that would make me quit. But it's the difference is it's one of the few jobs that I think would be like intellectually stimulating, because from following sports myself, there is this period at which you start to analyze it on that level where you're like, right, are they doing good trades here? What piece do they need to go to the next level? And it is quite a fun game to play. It's something where I feel like it's something where in the modern day, I feel like that's where coaching has actually receded in most sports, and GM has become more important, because you can coach people, but first of all, a lot of star players don't let themselves get coached anymore. In the games like Counter-Strike, I don't think you can have that much impact on them. But if you can actually be the guy who's sort of figuring out, right, do we need a young player? Do we need someone we've got to gamble on for a few years? Or do we need like the veteran guy who can give us only 6 months, but it might be the 6 months in this position we need to win a championship? That's a pretty fun idea, actually. Something that would be quite cool to do. Plus, I also think there's an element that's really underrated, which is if you do an amazing job lining up your next person and then know when to cut someone, that's how you fucking win against the other orgs. If you can pick up the person they should have picked up but 3 months before. Because there's like a great line I remember. It was in like, I think it was in like a documentary that had that fucking, what was his name? That like Jimmy Johnson or whatever his name was. That guy used to be at the Dallas Cowboys years ago. And he said this line, I think he said it to Bill Belichick actually, because Bill Belichick's always like embodied it ever since, which is he said to him, like, you always want to cut someone a year early rather than a year late. And that is such a straight fire piece of advice that no fucker in esports does. They all let these fuckers like Virtus.pro run it into the ground and then wonder where it's like, why does no one want to join my NIP squad that I have literally fucking buried so deep up the arse of the online qualifiers to the minor that they're probably never played at another major? Oh, weird. No one wants to go to my own. So I think that would be quite fun to try and, because remember, you're managing the present, you're fucking dealing with the issues of the past that someone gave you, but you're also having a plan for the future. So there's a world in which maybe I would do it. The downside is obviously just fucking too successful. Anyway, just did that, didn't I? So.
Well, yeah, you did turn down Fnatic at one point, right? I mean, that's the famous story. Exactly. So yeah, but like, listen, I
can't lie, man. When I was contacted, Rich, by Fnatic, and then Khan, fucking legend in our game, comes to me and he goes, goes, would you ever think about being a coach? And I go, oof, I mean, that's a tough one. There's a lot of star players. He goes, the League of Legends team. I go, but you have a CSGO team, though. You do mean League of Legends, yeah. I even said to him, I don't even know anything about that. Like, I vaguely know the game. I watch it and that, but like, again, Counter-Strike. You have a Counter-Strike team? No, not interested in that. League of Legends, yeah. So, I'm out.
But like, for me, because it's where I kind of really, that's where the esports hook got really deep for me, was when I was like being a manager and actually going to events.
Would you want to do it if in like 5 years?
Dude, I miss having the fire in the fucking nuts, when it's like, because it's like, first of all, putting together a team is like a puzzle, right? Like you say, it's this intellectually stimulating challenge and things that you think you know.
Well, here's the thing as well. It's basically like let's face it, we, especially our generation, we all just grew up playing fucking Championship Manager, didn't we? So there's an element where you're like, you want to just be sat there like transfer
clutching, but personality type. Yeah,
exactly.
So that's when I really started to love esports. I was interested in it before then, but it was working to overcome those obstacles. Like we need more firepower. So you get the player who you think's got more firepower, but he's a train wreck of a human being and he makes everyone else on the team absolutely miserable. So then you think, okay, I'll just manage him and make the other four understand, but it's not working. And then it's like you go to this event and then you underperform, and it's like, how much more do I sink into this? Do I cut the talent, or do I cut one of the four and slowly cycle them out? How do I handle it all? And I've talked about it before. Me and Henry G, we had an event at I-36 where he was in my Four Kings team, and it's the best moment in esports for me. It's the moment that means the most, and it shouldn't, but it was a game between two UK teams, Four Kings versus Crack Clan, And it was just to see who finished fourth in a LAN. And we did. We finished fourth. I mean, we lost our next game abysmally to Dignitas. But they had been like wrecking us constantly online, saying we were shit and we were the UK misfits and cast-offs, which was kind of true to a certain degree. And we fucking smashed them. We smashed them in a game on Inferno. And that, for me, was like the best thing I ever did in esports. Like, I fucking love that. It meant so much to be that invested. And I just miss, like, going to events with fucking players and going through that emotional side. I miss sitting down with younger guys and helping them.
Would also be fun as well, yeah, to go to an actual event and just go there to watch one team play. That would have its own appeal. I've fucking never done it, obviously.
Like, I always wanted to be fucking Jason Lake when I got into esports. I say it all the time. I know you
couldn't handle your liquor.
Exactly.
Too much of a lightweight.
Yeah, motherfucker put me under the table. But, like, you know, just that iconic image of him stood behind his players in a suit and tie, shouting and being that into it. That was what sold esports to me in my mind. So I always wanted to go back to that. But it was just weird. It was just after, like, it's kind of, this sounds like I'm being like a humble bragging motherfucker like Come on. Which I'm definitely not. No, but when you achieve a degree of success in any field, people think, well, you couldn't possibly do anything else. That is obviously what you do. And it's like, well, no, it just so happens I can do this. I have an aptitude for this, but I can also do this if somebody else would give me the opportunity, and I have done this in the past, and you haven't been around long enough to know that. So, I'm happy that Lerpiss is kind of able to walk away from a banker's job and do something that I personally think is more in line with his passion. I almost always felt that it was more a pragmatic decision to go away and be a banker, and if there'd been money in Counter-Strike, Lerpiss would have been one of those guys who definitely stuck around. But yeah, you know, I want to see the right people get the appointments. And look, fucking Lerpiss has said some outrageous shit about me, saying that, you know, when I recovered from cardiac arrest, he was like, well, hopefully next time. You know, so, and fuck it, I've said shit like that to you. So, and here we all are, you know, like at the end of the day, he's definitely the right guy for, or one of the right guys for this type of appointment, in my opinion.
Yeah. I will say this, though. The one thing that always will probably mean I won't do it, Rich, is if you look at how I've designed my career, right? Yes, I have designed it a lot around certain pitfalls I fell into so that, you know, that couldn't happen again, etc. But I have also, as a primary factor, always had to have like mad amounts of control over when I work. And even though at the moment, that might sound weird because obviously I work all the time. So people will think, well, what do you mean? And I actually like the idea that almost, unless I'm at an event, I can always just, if I wanted to, for some bizarre reason, I could just go, I'm not working today. Now that's going to be fucking hard to pull off if you're actually working for an org or something, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, man. But again, I think the hard work would be its own reward. It's slightly different, isn't it?
Could do. Yeah. Here's the thing as well. The other thing that would also be the temptation as well. And this is one of the reasons why, actually, when you mentioned that coaching job for Fnatic and League Legends, one reason I did consider it is because they had at the time, funny enough, they got him back, but at the time he actually ended up leaving. It's one of the reasons I didn't take the gig, is they had Soaz, right? Who I actually always considered like a problem child player, because all these people would talk shit on him and say he wasn't that good, but he's in his own way, he's a fantastically talented player. It's just you have to sort of know his personality to know how he ticks and therefore how to integrate him. And because a lot of people he'd worked with at the time didn't seem to understand that, and his teammates didn't. That's the sort of thing that would interest me more, I think, is if someone came to me an offer like for a team and it was some player, admittedly, I can't say who it is now because obviously it'd be years from now, it'd have to be some example. But okay, let's say, I mean, I wouldn't actually have done this, but this is to give you a hypothetical example. Say a year ago, someone like Na'Vi was like, well, can you help us? Like, we've just got Simple. Now, that would be an interesting challenge there, because you know the ceiling is literally like win everything. Now, the reality also is that you're probably not going to do that from day one. So, yeah, that's where it becomes like a really interesting intellectual challenge, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, the key issue here is esports has now got to the point where it has a wealth of experience and people need to start using it and fucking listening to it, because we've got too many. This is how bubbles get created and this is how bubbles go pop. You're not listening to the people who've survived the apocalypse. Like, it's like these are like the vault dwellers in Fallout in their shiny blue suits going, I'm sure there won't be a bandit over that fucking hill. Yeah, there is. And there's no water and there's fucking scorpions as big as a fucking battleship. Listen to us. We'll tell you. We'll talk you through that shit. So, you know, hopefully people do start utilizing the resources we've got, one of which now is experience. A couple of other quick news hits just before we get into the meat of the podcast. I saw Arlu had, poor motherfucker. He's on that God-sent roster for ESEA. I don't know if that's going to be like a trial or perhaps a permanent move for him. He's too good for that team, isn't he?
Yeah, of course. The problem, as far as I know, with Arlu is that I believe he only wants to stay in Europe. I think some sort of family situation, like he just doesn't want to leave his girlfriend or something. I'm not certain about that. It's not something I talked to him personally about, but that was like the vibe that was on the grapevine. Like he has to play for a European team. So I think he's in a position where he'd either have to wait till the next shuffle to get in, because there's not really any spots in any of the teams that you'd be able to get on if you think about how the multinational teams work. And so as a result, unfortunately, I think it rules out any moves to NA. So as far as I know, that's why he will not be. I would assume this is just a stopgap measure, personally. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, famously, he did have talks with Liquid, if I remember rightly, yes. It was. And because he would have had to have moved to America, he wasn't too keen on it. You know, I can kind of respect that. You know, you think Simple's the same. Yeah, exactly. I understand, but I do think right now, at a time when NA is kind of in flux, and there's going to be like one or two organizations that are just going to look to strengthen, and you've already, you know, been part of Optic, and your name's definitely floating out there. I do think, like, to kind of put your foot down and say, listen, I'm never living in that continent. I don't know. I think it's a little bit short-sighted, and I hope it doesn't impact on his career, because this is a player that has been part of some fucking amazing teams. Sure, and to see him on a roster with fucking, you know, players that I've never even heard of, like Conchi, you know, and fucking Hampus, who I have heard of, you know, I know it just doesn't look right to me. It kind of feels fucked up. But then again, I say the same thing about Twist, and he's spinning his wheels there as well. So who fucking knows, mate? But I certainly hope that's not a fucking ELO hell style prison for Arlu, because he's definitely better than that. It definitely deserves a decent team. I hope someone gives him another chance. And then finally, I just want to talk about this thing. The Play to Live Crypto Masters. Right? Now, first of all, I just want to...
Come on.
Yeah, no.
I think you're going to go the same place as I am, so go on.
I fucking hope so. It'll be awkward if we don't. But like my thoughts on cryptocurrency, just as a rule, is it's all bullshit. It's all nonsense. If it ever was a true threat to the government, like, it's just going to get fucking regulated to shit. And the big banks that do control the world will just shut it down. You're living in a fucking fantasy land if you ever think these, you know, things are going to have any meaningful impact. If you want to get in and basically sell your crypto on to idiots who think it is the future, don't begrudge you that at all, but don't piss down my back and tell me it's fucking raining, you daft cunts. And it triggers everyone when I say I'm not in the crypto. Even, like, you know, when we go to fucking events and they're in the fucking, I'm just looking at my crypto portfolio. That may as well be a fucking skid mark on your iPhone, mate, because it's all coming down eventually. You know, it's polishing brass on the Titanic. But anyway, crypto's going to be big in esports. This is how I know crypto's a fucking scam, because it went from fucking skins casinos to case opening sites, and here's cryptocurrency by the fucking way. Well, what's cryptocurrency? Yeah, we just make up a coin. You give us the money up front. That gives it its valuation. And then who knows, you know? Like, we'll just see what happens. Basically, a lot of these ICOs are companies that couldn't get venture capital funding for their idea. So what they do is they create a token, so the community funds the idea for them without calling it crowdfunding, because then there's an expectation for transparency and actually delivering on what the fuck you promised. Bit different when it's a cryptocurrency. That's why it's so popular. So anyway, I saw the Play to Live Crypto Masters announced, and I was going to do a separate video on it, but I've been too busy and I haven't had time. Just imagine this, Duncan, and how this can be rife for fucking potential abuse. We are the company that own the cryptocurrency. We get your money to come into the cryptocurrency. We pay out the prize money in the cryptocurrency to the players and teams that compete at our events. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can see right away, right? That, like, yeah, here's, you give us real money, we pocket it, we convert it into this pile of bullshit over there.
Yeah.
And we pay you out in the bullshit. And if you want to cash in, you totally go ahead. Filing for bankruptcy in 3, 2, 1.
You know, over in the fucking ES Force offices, who's beat us to this? What the we've been paying real money for this shit. Epicenter, that's real money. Now, obviously, it's that type of money we like to give away. But even so, right, enough of that. Right? I left it just clean enough there, Rich.
You're good, man. You're good.
Anyway,
so here's my came to wearing off. Yeah,
I will say, first of all, Don't tell me you've got a tournament called Pay to Live, and then it's just a tournament for Counter-Strike where you do this. Tell me that you've gone and it's going to be a Premier League for Counter-Strike out of Thailand. 2 teams play, one of them gets killed. There we go. It's a Pay to Live tournament, something like that. Like, that sounds like straight fire.
No, but here's the madness. Here's the madness behind it, right? Like, it's got a whole business model around it, right? Which is, and apparently they've raised almost $24 million.
I'll literally be selling that coin the next day.
Oh, well, perhaps, right? But I'll let Sam. Maybe you want to bring up the fucking website. But they're claiming that with this 30 million injection, which is people, basically buying the tokens, they're gonna somehow challenge Twitch. As a broadcaster, and what they're
going to be concerned about winning cryptocurrency that could instantly be devalued.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about. It's mad, isn't it? You've got the crypto. By the way, you can't cash out for a minimum of 6 months while we raise our money, right? So you just keep hold of that crypto, right? Yeah. Oh, our company's fucked. Sorry, mate. That crypto is now worthless. Sorry. Like, Bitcoin. Like, it's just fucking so retarded that this shit is coming.
I will say this: I will give one free pass to any cryptocurrency tournament organizer that hires Anders to do all the BitConnect shit on stage live. I will give you one free pass just because that will be glorious. And he could do it, by the way. He knows every word of that fucking thing. He's watched it about 700 times.
Yeah. Oh, I know, man. He fucking loves that shit. But anyway, so what they want to do is eventually they're claiming like 0.7 on their fucking roadmap is they're going to be broadcasting popular esports events and covering it. And they claim they're going to cover the international, LCS, the Overwatch World Cup, and CSGO majors. And there's going to be all this interactivity where you can pay you can earn the tokens by doing certain things in the channel. Like spamming Omega lol or whatever the fuck the broadcaster wants you to do. But also the broadcaster is going to be able to make tokens as well. But there's no way any of these developers are going to be like, yep, absolutely broadcast our content and make money off it in the form of crypto. I don't know. That roadmap makes no fucking sense.
I can't lie, fucking LP Kane was ahead of it like a motherfucker. He was like the Elon Musk. Why did we let that guy go? He could have saved us all. He was already mining it off his fucking customers, wasn't he? He was so far ahead of the game, it's unreal.
No, fuck that guy. But yeah, so anyway, I just thought I hope this doesn't become a trend because this is, put it as well, there's people involved who've been involved in previous organizations like Game Show, which owe money fucking everywhere. Right? I mean, legit, if you go to Russia, Lithuania, the Balkans, and you can throw a dart and hit some cunt that fucking Game Show owes money to. Right? So, hey, everyone. Yeah, we had a few financial problems with our last business, but don't worry, the money's completely made up this time, and you're paying for it. Please, esports, don't do this. Not crypto, just not crypto. Can we all not do the crypto thing? Anything else? I'm all for crowdfunding now.
I will say this, Rich. What is genius about this move? The one part that is smart is this hasn't just been dismissed out of hand. Everyone in the whole industry hasn't just gone, well, of course not. Because this is the current trend. Everyone has to pretend that they know that crypto is this amazing shit. It's definitely the future and that we're all in on it somehow. So they're just trying to still figure, because that's what everyone's doing. Everyone's just pretending. The reason I never got involved in that, even though I actually had liquid income that I could have just put into some of that shit ages ago, is because even after I read some articles and watched some videos, I never found a single one ever that logically explained why my money would go up with any of them. Never. And in fact, everyone who tells you they do know that is just explaining after the fact what happened. There's no reason ever as to why someone who put in $100 in Bitcoin and they got it to 1,000 shouldn't have just sold then. How does he know it's going to go up more? Because the same logic as to why it's going to go up more is why it goes up to 10,000, then 20,000, but then it goes down again. And there's no way to ever know. All the people you can get your info on directly benefit in some way, either selling or buying, from you believing what they say. It's got to be the bit. What's genius about that is it's basically like a super high level version of a scam that just gets people involved who just want to gamble. Like if you can gamble like responsibly, as in I can lose this 10k, fine, do it, go for it. If that's what you're in for. But I could never see a logical reason as to why this is something I should put my money in. I never did. I never put any more time.
Just before, because obviously there's a load of crypto idiots now. Like they've seen the wave. No, it's unreal. There's like they've seen the wave of like 16-year-olds who are like millionaires on papers, and now all of a sudden you see hashtag crypto enthusiast, which may as well just say virgin for life, by the way. But whatever, if you've got that in your Twitter bio, it literally, I just block people with that in now. So when people go, but I never even tweeted at you. No, you describe yourself as a crypto enthusiast. Fuck off. But what the one thing they always do is they come at you and go, so you're saying the blockchain technology's bad. Well, that just shows you ignorance. Absolutely fucking not, by the way. Think the blockchain technology straight fire. Just think all the currency shit that's fucking attached to it is absolutely fucking stupid. And you're seeing it now. I mean, like, I know a guy in like the financial sector who's helped me investigate a few things down the years, and he's like, you haven't got any crypto, have you? And I'm like, no, fuck no, dog, I'm not, he goes, yeah, well, there's some regulations coming. So obviously regulations fucking, it's going to get regulated up the wazoo, and I just think this is another like textbook fucking cash grab while something isn't regulated, while it's a gray area. Let's get in, pretend it's the shit. Fucking when it gets regulated, the people who made all the money are off laughing onto the next fucking scam. And that's how it always goes down. So I want esports to give it a fucking wide berth. But yeah, blockchain, obviously amazing. Don't bore me with that. If I see a single comment in the fucking YouTube replies when this goes up going, you hate blockchain. Fuck off. I'm coming for you, right? I'm coming for you. Anyway, so yeah, please, no more crypto prize payouts. The thing is as well, if you did the event, promote your crypto but paid out in real money, I don't have any issue with that, but it just seems too rife for abuse to be like, come enter our event, we pay you in a made up money. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, here's the thing. How about this? When people buy the crypto, you use the real money as the prize person. You just use it to advertise your crypto. No problem, right? I mean, remember, the crypto is going to be worth loads. You guys should hold on to that. You're going to be fucking rich one day. Give us the money, you little cunt.
Hodl. Right, anyway, so let's get into the main part, right? Let's do it. Let's start talking about the fucking Star Series Season 4 finals. Again, a crazy event that actually shows some of the shifts since the last major. This was the first event you could really glean anything from in terms of its format. Was definitely going to separate the wheat from the chaff.
Yes.
But let's talk about the fucking chaff. And again, we won't labor the point, but can we just finally say, like, Taz wasn't the problem, was he, in Virtus Pro?
He wasn't the only problem. Let's put it that way. No, they have a lot of problems in that team. By the way, here's something a lot of people won't know. Because, I mean, if you're like me, when I'm sat at home, I don't watch every game. So one game I hope no one watched, because why would you watch this, was Virtus Pro versus MVP, the Korean team. Now, here's what people won't know. Yeah. The Korean team should have won this game. They were at match point on the third map, which was the new rework of Nuke, which VP aren't very good on. So believe it or not, VP actually should have got 0-3 here. Even though the win is fucking worthless anyway, they were even worse than the initial results might show.
No, I mean, seriously, it was a massive choke by MVP. Now, I know some of the newer fans to the game probably don't know that this actually does have some experienced 1.6 players who go back as far as Taz and Neo in their respective scenes, Solo and Glow. But my heart bled for them because this was actually one of the better series at the event. It was so back and forth in how, MVP were obviously, they're not at that skill level, the rest of Europe and NA, but Virtus Pro and them were sort of just going toe-to-toe. They were still playing aggressive. And Virtus Pro's inherent shitness sort of just balanced this up as a series. And as you say, MVP should have literally won this. There was a huge choke that they didn't when they were at match point. And that would have put out Fnatic and Virtus Pro on 0-3, which is an insane, because Tyloo obviously had the upset over on Fnatic as well. Yeah. So, I mean, look, Virtus Pro brought in Mihu. I thought Mihu did well. But
he did well, actually, yeah.
Yeah, but you can see there's two fundamental problems on Virtus Pro. Like, Byali's Byali. Byali is what Byali is. Like, he'll occasionally go off, not often, but you the level of performance you expect from Bialy, you get from Bialy. Neo is so past his best. And
scary, isn't it?
No, everybody in the scene. I love Philip. This is a fucking good human being. I've talked many times about how humble he is, what a nice person he is. But fuck that, it don't count for shit when we need to talk about how you fucking played on the day, on the server, in the big matches.
Especially remember, add this piece of detail. I actually think VP's gotten away with it at some of the shit performances last year, because in a normal tournament, if you just go out straight away like they always did, you might play 4 games. He played 10 maps and was terrible at this tournament. That's why I fucking love this format.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you know, that's why there's no argument about what the problems are. Now, I actually got contacted by a couple of sources who, you know, I couldn't vet them. But since we always talk, you know, straight fucking insider supposed gossip shit on the show, why the fuck not? But I had 2 people message me, and they both said like the same thing, that actually it was agreed at the point when Taz went that Neo would go also. But Virtus Pro were like, this will take too much of a hit. And Neo has some shares or some ownership in Virtus Pro, so they're delaying having him go out at the same time. But like apparently it's it's already been decided that, you know, in the next few months, Neo will get phased out. Now, as I said, these are 2 random people who claim to have this insider knowledge in the Polish scene.
Just using it speculatively, though, there's a logic. So I even agree, if that is indeed the premise, that's one of the first smart things I've actually heard the fucking Virtus Pro organization do in a few years, which is that I think they're right. If you let them go, especially in that order, by the way, if you let Taz go first, he was obviously being terrible and is not as beloved as Neo, and then you wait, you let the team still do bad, because they're gonna do that for you anyway. Then you remove Neo, because at this point in time, first of all, it's like Nip. Once you break the seal on like this, these players have to stay together. It gets easier to cut them every time, mate. Each one's easier.
Look at NIP.
And when you've then shown that Neo didn't pick it up, you remove him as well. It's not the end of the world anymore.
Now, this, of course, might just be utter bullshit message to me by people who are just talking out their arse. Because, I mean, look, if there's one thing I'll definitely say, the Chinese got it wrong. This isn't the year of the dog. It's clearly the year of the fucking moron.
Because I'm going to say the year of the rat.
Well, no. Smoothie's got to wait a little bit longer, mate. So it's definitely the year of the fucking moron, because the fucking replies I've had for just, you know, fairly basic tweets like, hey, Simple is the best player in the world right now, and it's not even close. Kill yourself, you fucking... What about Rain? Yeah, it's not close. Like, Rain's good, but he's not the best in the world. Not right now. He's close to it, but Simple is on another... Kill yourself, you... It's like,
always bloody go on about Simple. Are you gay or something? Brilliant comment. But anyway, love KG that. Blocked me.
So anyway, like I've had a lot of people like just straight messaging me, and I showed you the one I tweeted out as well, where it was like, Richard, you should look into the fact that maybe Cloud9 were on drugs, and that's why they won the major. Yeah, that wonder drug where one line and you just fucking are brilliant at everything, but then you can never take it again and just remain good. That mad drug that definitely doesn't exist. Yeah, no, it's so dumb, innit? So obviously I get a lot of fucking morons just straight messaging me.
I like the one where you just said something like, you know, this game's done on Inferno, and like I was like, what about now, little bitch?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you see that? No, it was like, and all I said was third place playoffs suck dick. Then this is the reason why. And keep in mind, we had one map that was garbage, and it was 0 and 12 in the second. You know, it doesn't matter. Like that guy literally answered to me as well and said, "Oh, overtime always makes for great Counter-Strike." So I said, that's why we remember that fucking Flipside Mouse Sports at Columbus as the best game of all time, don't we? Absolutely fucking not. It was hideous. People wanted it to end. And, you know, don't get me wrong, there was some exciting rounds.
Funnily enough, high-level play. It's like that, mate, that fucking Infernal game. Everyone wanted that. And then when FaZe fuck my life. I think even FaZe wanted that series over, mate. I think even they begrudgingly won the map and had to give us 3 maps. For fucks.
Yeah, and then what happened?
Still got
a shit third map, third map, right? So anyway, yeah, so absolute morons. So what I'm saying is, the reason I'm bringing up morons, we'll talk about third place playoffs in a bit, but the reason I'm bringing up morons is that this Polish guys could just be straight bullshitting me. But, you know, sometimes these things do leak out. Like, you know, we saw that argument that they had, that got out super quick, and, you know, it's entirely plausible. I mean, put it this way, one of the things I thought was interesting was apparently Taz went and followed all the AGO players on Twitter. Well, I mean, could be a general manager position or something, right? Because I don't know if he'd be playing. But what somebody like Taz has to make inroads into doing something like that. Taz has given too much to Counter-Strike and still offers too much to Counter-Strike to literally just fade into obscurity. I know he's got a family now. I know that's how it is. But he could be on an analysis desk. His English is fucking amazing. He could be a manager. I
still don't really understand the whole thing about he's got a family. There was a world before Counter-Strike and esports, and there was a lot of cunts in it with families. In fact, guess what? Having a family is a pretty fucking good reason to try and earn way more money than you earn normally in Poland. It sounds like a wicked idea to me.
Yeah, exactly. So
not the having a family. I'd advise against it. If it's not too late, get rid of it.
Easy.
The family, not the kids. Let them live. Pro-life.
Good, excellent. Good save, Duncan. So he did follow all the AGO guys. So look, if it is true and Neo is going to go, then, good. Because that's a guy who, if he goes now, the adoration and the love is going to be so fucking great for him that no one's going to remember this last year how bad he played. But he is now in a still failing Virtus Pro team, and the longer it goes on, the worse it's going to get, unless he can turn a corner and find some godlike form from nowhere, which doesn't happen in your 30s. It just doesn't. But the other problem we've got to start drawing attention to, it's the big guy. It's fucking Snacks. This is a player who was a top 5 player in the world last year. I do not understand points last year. I do not understand where he's gone and what is going on with him. Because it just doesn't look like the same player at all. He is so underwhelming and consistently underwhelming these days.
That's depressing, isn't it? I will say part of the problem, I feel like, this might sound like a kind of an abstract point, is that I never actually thought Snacks was that crazy in terms of skill. He could definitely hit some nutty shots, but in terms of skill, I don't even think he was the best player on that team. I think Bialy had a much better aim than him. But the thing about Snacks is, and this might sound weird, but because his style was so much based on I guess I don't really want to say outthinking you. It's more like he just had this amazing sixth sense for what to do and where to be. And I've seen it only in a couple of players. I think Element in 1.6 was a bit like this. They just somehow know exactly where to go and what timing to sort of sneak behind you or push through a smoke or when to pull back and then not to move. So you go in and you think it's clear and then they kill you, And the downside of that is if that ever fucking leaves you, well, you're just done at that point in time, mate. And God forbid you're the guy who used to have that skill and now you don't have it. You're going to be making the wrong move all over the place because your natural instinct is I just do whatever I feel like. And then it's going to be working like a motherfucker, isn't it? So I don't know why. And especially the most alarming thing about it is, remember, this came with him becoming the in-game leader. So that maybe he changed how he thinks about the game. Maybe he changed what he thinks his role should be. Remember, that is literally what just ruined Seized forever.
Yeah, you're right, man.
That sort of thing, it might never come back. The difference is, at least if you're a guy who had mad aim, right, maybe you can just get your fucking head together and be good. Like I think if Shocks gets this wrist surgery done, I bet he could be a fucking monster again. He still shows flashes of it now.
Oh, yeah, sure. So while we're talking about people past their fucking best, the shelf life kind of dying out, this was a really strange tournament because Fnatic had sort of been, steadily improving towards the end of 2017. They looked rock
solid last year, mate.
Yeah,
Major, yeah.
Yeah. It's really fucking weird what happened here. They came to this event, everybody was like, well, they could be, dark horses. They're doing all right. But
I would,
it won't be a walkover.
No joke. I actually would have bet real money that this team would make playoffs, so top 8. Bearing in mind, think of these factors. First of all their LAN results from basically after the beginning have been rock solid, really good. Then you look at the performance. They were always getting consistent performance out of Crims, out of other players. Everything looked good in terms of roles. And finally, by the time they got to the major, their map pool actually looked half decent. So you add in that this is an event that's best of 3 in the Swiss system. I would have bet all day that this team would make plus. The idea they got 0-3 is it blows my mind to this day.
Well, I saw some statistic that it was it's the first time that the core of this Fnatic team, the Flusher JW Crims core, has ever gone out last place.
Yes. Yes,
So
they have gone out before playoffs, obviously, but last place,
but like dead last, 0-3, and it's like the games they lost, right? I mean, look, you say sure, we'll give you Gambit, maybe. Like Gambit are a very up and down, seesaw kind of team. You don't know how that's going to pan out. They've got a strange map pool at the moment. You really never know what you're going to get from Gambit, especially, this is the Gambit that's bedding in a new player, right? So I'll give them that one. I still think Gambit have the potential to be good. You lose 2-0 to Tai Lu. This is one of the most mind-blowing upsets in Counter-Strike. Needless to say, Inbox was flooded with people saying it's a throw. Fuck off, you're all idiots. I will add in
a caveat to that one, which is here's the thing, okay, so the guy who actually in Tai Lu looked like the best player was the brand new addition. It's this guy X-Crit or whatever his name is. And basically, apparently, he is not only the AWPer, but like the in-game leader. So I will say, you shit out a look if you wanted to look at any old demos and figure out what they're doing. You'd have nothing from any of the lands they've been at. But yeah, I agree. Like, it's not like Tyler went on and were amazing after that. They were all right. I'll give them credit. They were a lot better than I thought they would be. But
progress,
yeah. Again, logically, a team like Fnatic, just playing to their own level, should have handled this all day.
And again, let's be clear. This was 0-2, right? And the maps that they had were Cobblestone and Inferno. I know obviously like Tai Lu, Cobblestone's their best map. But it's not like they're absolute god tier on it. They've lost to some very ordinary sides on that map. And Fnatic, it's maybe middle of the pack for them. They're never going to ban it. They'll leave it in there. They don't mind. But Inferno is like arguably
one of your best maps.
Yeah. Best. Like, and you lose in overtime. It's so crazy to me.
And the sickest part is, by the way, in all 3 series they played, Crims was really good. I was watching one of them. It's really good.
Here's the madness, mate. Here's the madness. Because I like pretty much watched every game this tournament. My sleep pattern had just aligned. So I was getting up at like 4 or 5 a.m. when the games were starting over here. And I was watching a full day of Counter-Strike before getting down to work, But Crims was still in like the top 8 players at the event. And he went out 0-3.
He even had some mental route. It wasn't even just frags. It's not like he was getting like, I just got loads of eco frags or whatever. No, he was fucking like winning clutches, like winning pistol rounds by himself. That guy's amazing.
Yeah, he's just out of fucking control at the moment. But then he did that thing, which he loses points for me when he does that. He tweeted out after, didn't he, going, maybe I stopped playing Counter-Strike or something. Like, yeah. Come on, mate. Done that before. He's done that before as well, by the way.
You are not a 13-year-old Asian girl, and this is not your blog in 2004, and we are not all your friends at school who are going to go, cheer up, pet. Like, fuck off.
Well, actually, everyone did.
That's the worst part.
He's not going to retire.
So I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, no, I know you would.
You know what? Grab your fucking nuts if there's anything down there and fucking get back in line and try again. Guess what? You finished last at a tournament. Guess what, you absolute entitled cunt? I said this to JW when he wanted to join NIP back in the day. You think a bad tournament is the semi-finals. Tell you what, mate. I mean, admittedly, I didn't know he'd eventually play in Godsent and the bad Fnatic, I used to tell him, a bad tournament for you now is semi-finals. There's teams you can be in, mate, where semi-finals will be a great performance for you. I mean, he's in a team right now where that's the case, Like, the level of entitlement some of these players have is mad. And in this scenario, like, yes, what, Crims, you're due a few last places. Not as a player, but as a career. Like, there's very few people get to just be on, like, the fucking Patriots the whole career and just like, every season, 11 wins. We had sort of a bad start. Like, fuck off. Come on, everyone's supposed to go through adversity.
Yeah, it's true. Keep in mind, by the way, Duncan, when you do these fictitious motivational speeches, you've just said, I am available for GM and coach.
Oh, don't worry, I'd be doing this all day. Yeah, I'd be in that ass. I'd be given, listen, here's the thing I'd say as a caveat, though.
Oh, no.
I would figure out the people you can do it to and who you can't do. Like, first of all, if it's someone who, couldn't handle, like, public humiliation, I wouldn't do that in public to that guy. I'd take him privately to give him the hairdryer treatment. And then, but certain people, I'd call them straight out. Yeah, I'd just go, listen, boy, you want to go? You can lose fucking 0-4 in this room right now, motherfucker. Because I'm hitting a motherfucker in that nerve. Remember the old one I joked about with Freakazoid? Enough of that. Anyway.
Yeah, I will fucking.
So anyway, enough of me fictionally assaulting the players.
Yeah, take it from me. You don't want to do that. But anyway, look, we've highlighted, problem players. I mean, I'm going to write something about this generation of players that are definitely past the best and just need to do the decent thing and retire. The Markelovs, the Tazes, the Neos.
I'll tell you, Rich, this is a point I've made before, but I want people to really think about it. So I wasn't joking when I said I actually get a bit tilted by the way everyone in the scene collectively, like talent and players, are in denial of the fact these people are beyond their prime. And they're, bloody sucks to see you have a bad tournament. You're such a legend. None of you ever are there when they leave. Like, please come join my team. Can you please join I have a multinational team. Will you please join would you hitch your current form to my career so I can be the guy who goes, when that player wasn't any good, I played with him at the end when he was absolute shit. Like, no, because none of you actually will put your fucking skin in the game in that sense. It's all great giving lovely tweets, but nobody wants to play on a team with these players we're listing off. The fucking ex-NIP players. No one wants them, mate. Half the time when they get on teams, it's the bloody org that does it for like cynical shit. Like, you still got fans and, maybe you could turn it around. Like, most pro players modern day, in fact, this is generally a rule, I would say. Most young players who have talent, the only thing they respect is talent. They'll tell you all day in tweets they respect you. They don't give a fuck if you can't kill them in the server, mate. They want you out the door.
Yeah, of course, man. And it's like I said, there's some people that aren't even that old that are in danger of sort of falling into that form. And like, I know Jesper watches the podcast. Fast forward for the next couple of minutes, mate. But like JW has been somebody that like, I just don't get it anymore. Like, he hasn't adapted his play style. And here's the thing. This should be the period where if we're ever going to see a resurgent JW, it should be now, right? Because what did people used to say about him? It was his aggressive play style, and he would miss with the AWP, but he'd have the CZ to bail him out. The CZ is back in the state it was in. It is busted as fuck. It should be balanced preferably out of the fucking game in its current form. It makes so many fucking rounds that shouldn't be winnable. As I tweeted out the other day, even Zeus can get a double kill with this busted ass piece of shit gun. Right? It just I'm so triggered by it now. It's like I watch a team win a round, do everything right, and then the CZs are out. It's better than a fucking rifle half the time on some of these dog shit players. So this is a time when JW should be shining again, right? That was the theory crafting. It was the AWP and strong CZ combo that would fucking make him straight fire on the server. Well, he's not straight fire on the server. He's not landing AWP shots. He's not using the CZ at the same capacity he used to. He just doesn't look like a player that's ever going to get back to the form he used to be in way back when he was one of the, tearaway players, one of the best players to watch, one of the best players in the world. And like, I think he's fallen a little bit into that mindset where he keeps thinking it will just happen. It will just click. I will get back to there. Sometimes it doesn't happen, brother. You either fucking adapt or die. This is sports.
Oh, absolutely. And I have to say, he is a player where if I had to bet right now, I'd probably say he wouldn't come back. Like, again, someone who relied on a very, very unique, eclectic playing style, which just deserted him years ago, quite frankly. I mean, he was one of the guys where, sad to say, during the end of their really strong Fnatic run before they kicked Prodax, before he left the team rather, he'd already started to have his issues. Like, if you remember, he had all those weird shit where he just had to start like maining a shotgun and stuff. And then he obviously had a lot of problems when he went to Godsent that time and when Olaf Meister got injured. Like, it's been a few years now that JW struggled. Now, he's been able to make it in as much as he's been in such good teams, he could be like, I'm the best of the worst players on the team. That was enough to get him by. And then you add in, I've no doubt he's got a lot of experience and knows the players and all the rest of it. Yeah, I'm sure that all adds up to a lot. But yeah, in a world where in this team, they need you to be a real force. You need to fucking do something, especially because you've got a low fragging in-game leader. They actually look to you to do something. And not only that, if they're going to give you an AWP, I mean, funnily enough, in a weird way, it goes against him because the fact that people can just wreck on force buys, if you're not a really good AWPer, you're just a mad liability to me in this meta. Like, I think you just fucking waste everyone's time buying AWPs. So I don't know what he's going to do because as far as I can tell, yes, he would have to literally reinvent his play to be a top player again. Now, Fnatic looked decent enough recently, but I would put it this way, if I had to go ahead and say it, if I was evaluating them before this tournament where they had all those good results, I would have said, yeah, he's probably one of the dead weights on the team, mate.
Yeah, and look, I should add as well, because I was, people will get on my back about, you don't send the game. Yeah, I know the CZ, it doesn't pull out as quick as it used to, which was another factor why it was great as a secondary.
Kind of like my dad. Hey,
I knew that was coming. But yeah, obviously,
so did
it's still a ridiculously powerful pistol.
Yes.
I think we can all agree it needs to be fucking nerfed, or some other balance needs to happen around it. Yeah, right, good.
All you need to know is Glave's just capping motherfuckers with it. Glaive.
Well, he had a hell of a fucking match today, but we're not talking about Katowice. So anyway, is this an anomaly for Fnatic? Is this just one of those ones where you turn up to an event and nothing goes right? Like, we shouldn't be too concerned overall, or do you feel that maybe it was a little bit deceptive how good they were?
Right, I have to go ahead and immediately say that the caveat for me is they did play. I mean, how many would it have been? Was it something like 7, 8 maps at this one? So again, that's like a full tournament's worth. So I will say it's very different from a tournament in the past where someone went out 0-2 and just went straight out. That I can wipe one of those ones off all day long as long as the next one's good. But part of me doesn't feel like that tournament can be the real Fnatic. Like, I feel like that was a bad one. I will say the amount of maps is alarming to me. That definitely means if they do bad at like the next 1 or 2 tournaments, I'll immediately be like, right, well, you're done now because you played so many games. But they were just so solid at those last tournaments that, I don't really buy that this is it. Like, I still think they're going to be a good team. They'll still be a top 10 team for me.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Cloud9. Because obviously Cloud9...
Oh, fancy that, Rich? It's almost like I know a few things about this fucking game.
No, you do, but
it's just the fucking era of Cloud9. They're just going to win every tournament, like every fucking. Oh, don't worry, no one said it now, Rich. As usual, if I'm ever right, no one ever said it otherwise. I mean, I must have missed it when. I should just do a video one day where all I do is go back and get the old Reddit threads and show you all the people in them and just go, look at this one, 300 points. Look at this one, downvoted to -70 for saying maybe Cloud9 got lucky in the fact. All these factors that like now everyone will just again retcon everything that they always thought. I always just said Cloud9 was on. I even saw people, Rich. Legit people who aren't idiots using excuses like maybe they're just tired after the major. What about all the other teams that played all those tournaments after the major as well? It's just the shittest excuses ever, isn't it?
But here's the thing. So after the major, right, like I think they continued in pretty good form in the online CS that was being played, right? And then they went to the summit and made it to the final.
SK there.
Yeah, beat SK there. So I wasn't concerned. I was thinking, Cloud9 are definitely entering a period where, like I said, I got a lot of criticism in the last episode of the podcast for it, but I think we're finally going to see the best we've ever seen out of NA in 2018. I think we're going to have 2 teams in the top 5 in World Counter-Strike, perhaps consistently over the course of the year, depending on what happens. But this was a strange event. They went out there. They got paired up with it was Heroic first, right? So they fucked them, and unfortunate tidings for Rubino, if I remember rightly. After
he was doing terrible,
we gave him the kiss of death on this show, talking about how good he was, and then that happened. But whatever.
It was a game where he had like 10 ADR or something. I'm not joking.
I was on fucking suicide watch for that one. I'm like, shall I delete this tweet where I say Rubinho is a god tier player and will make any team he's on better? Shall I delete that? Nah, we'll leave it all in there. He's gonna come good again. I'm doubling down on Rubinho. I just can't quit you.
Almost made the playoffs.
Almost, right? But so Cloud9 beat Heroic. I expected that. Then you've got FaZe. Now, this is one of those classic matchups in World Counter-Strike where it's like stylistically FaZe just beat Cloud9. The major final was
logical.
Definitely an anomaly. But 16-1.
Yeah, this is the problem, Rich, is that first of all, I agree. If all you told me is FaZe beat Cloud9, I'd go, that's fine. I wouldn't even worry about that. I'm Cloud9. You're supposed to lose to FaZe. I also agree. I thought the major final, that's why if you notice most of the factors I stressed in the major final were specific to a major final, because that's the only real outlier to me, is one of them was a major final. All the others that are normal matches, I'll put my money on FaZe all day long. If you idiots think it's reasonable or Cloud9 can beat them, I definitely want to take odds from you cunts. Like, it's logical, but yeah, that's the problem. This was like the biggest, well, except maybe like the first one, I think they played at ESL New York. This was almost close to the biggest beatdown FaZe has given Cloud9.
Yeah, or indeed many teams. And what's interesting is, like, I tweeted this out as well. I'd love to see like a Sean Gares or a Yanko or somebody like that do some high-level analysis on how Cash has become like FaZe's best map when it started out as a bit of a Hail Mary in the mix from Carrigan. You know, they've only lost on it twice out of the last 14 times they played it or something. It's fucking mental how good they've become on it all of a sudden. But, you know, like Cash and Inferno, like FaZe Immortal on Inferno, like you're still in the series even if you get spanked on Cash, and you still only get 8 rounds, 9 rounds against the team you just beat in a major final. You know, after you've already won, everything's supposedly good. You've just beat Heroic, right? This is where you prove with a real deal. Cloud9 didn't do that. And as was the story of the whole fucking tournament, Automatic was the only player that really showed up at this event at all and is consistently making a name for himself as one of the best players in NA. But yeah, they lost the FaZe comprehensively. I'd be willing to say, okay, shit happens. And then you've got SK. And like you said...
Yeah, again, draw sounds terrible, but again, it's the nature of how you lost, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and you've got SK Gaming. This is a team you've just beaten at your previous LAN
looking
tournament.
Vulnerable as well.
Yeah, and that, mate, I tell you, if people think this Bolts incarnation, if it stays like this, there's no credible argument that can be made that SK Gaming are a stronger team with Bolts.
You know what's hilarious is the examples of Cloud9 and SK, because obviously SK, yes, before the major had won like 3 of the 4 tournaments with Bolts, all that shit. What people did was exactly what I was talking about with the crypto shit earlier, because they didn't know the reasons why those teams succeeded. Their logic was they succeeded, so they'll just keep succeeding. And if you say otherwise, you're hating. It's like, well, no, that's not the way it works. Like, there's no team in history, literally no team in history, where you, even if they won the first 3 tournaments, you can go, oh, they'll definitely win all the rest. Like, definitely not. In fact, it gets harder to win the subsequent tournaments after you win the first ones. You start teaching people what maps to play you on, how to play you, what the key player is, what he's going to do. You know, like, the reason why teams like Fnatic, the Fnatic core, are gods is because they kept winning like 9 months to a year after the lineup was formed. Like, that means they had to reinvent themselves a couple of times along the way. You don't just keep doing the same thing 10 times and have it work.
Yeah. And again, 15 rounds Cloud9 took here. Automatic dropped 40 frags in 2 maps. Meanwhile, Rush dropped 12. You know, so, I mean, that gives you an idea about how just some of the teammates around Automatic didn't show up. But okay, you've lost to FaZe. You've lost to SK Gaming. You're still in the tournament, right? They get Virtus Pro. Right now, that's a fucking layup. You know what I mean? Like, give me Virtus Pro all day, every day. And it was a slaughter. So I was like, all right, Cloud9 are back in it. And then they got mouse sports. And I was sat at home going, well, I've got mouse sports to go all the way to the final. So there's no way Cloud9 can win this. And, you know, it was a super close series. But again, you're the fucking major winners. You know what I mean? Like, you lost in the final to Team Liquid, your local rivals, at the last major event you were out. You've been busted up by FaZe and SK. Like, you're meant to be a top 3 team in the world right now. And, you know, mouse sports have got to be there for the taking. You have got... This is what Cloud9 always used to do. Whenever they played teams that were below them in the pecking order, they fucking beat them. It was whenever they played teams that were above them in the pecking order, they'd go missing. And you thought they'd got that fucking hoodoo resolved, but it's the same old shit. And, you know, I got some fears about where Cloud9 go from here. Not like they've started fucking gangbusters at Katowice either. So, like, I know I'm not trying to set you up to get a lot of hate from North American fans. Is this the fluke major win?
Well, the big problem with that is people are just going to immediately, like, it depends what you define as fluke. I would definitely say this. Like, I guess the big problem is this. The fact, all the intangibles are things you can never know how they would have gone if you'd have played the game differently. Because, for example, I could definitely see a world in which the exact same major final, like, you know, FaZe just got going early, they front ran, they're probably one of the best front runners in the whole fucking game, or they won every pistol round and therefore they just front ran. You know, in all these scenarios, I think FaZe wins that final. Remember, FaZe was 1 round from winning the final. So if that's your best day of your life, you probably had to have some things go your way. So yes, to some degree, I think it is one of the flukes. Like, to me, the 3 big flukes is Cloud9 winning, Gambit winning, and Fnatic, the original one, the first ever one, winning. Those 3 are the ones that obviously stand out as, like, you know, if you play that tournament 10 times, that team wins maybe no other times than that once. Like, that's how it goes for me. With that said, of those 3 teams, and they probably played the best, they probably actually had the best performance and they played the hardest team, so fair play, I'll shore it up that way. But yeah, I don't think this is comparable to when, like, you know, other great teams won the major and went on to be, like, you know, top 5 team of all time, amazing shit. No, I mean, I even said after they won it, I mean, people people just ignored this because I think I'm hating, but I believe I even said I don't think they're going to win other tournaments, actually. Like, I just don't think it's going to happen. Like, I think they're very good. They could be in semi-finals. I mean, I guess with Mousesports winning Star Series, I can't say they won't win any because Mousesports probably, by that logic, shouldn't win any. But, okay, they could have another inspired run. But basically, it would take, like the Major, everything. Everything has to go right. Everything. I mean, you need the right draw. You need the right maps. You sometimes need a favour, like you need a star player to have a bad game. It happened in every series of that fucking playoff run. All that combined, yeah, you could be really good. But I think when you look at this tournament here, what's so scary about this tournament is, think about it this way. The shit teams, they monstered. So you can't be super tired and all that bad. What, you never even had a hard game. Then you played the really good teams. You got your shit pushed in completely. So that shows me that, you know what, you've probably got weak mental fortitude, quite frankly. Then the game against the team around your level, Mousesports, was close, but you lost it. Like, this is so many games. Again, it's not one series. Then you look at the performance they had. Automatic, really good performance. Skadoodle.
Dude, 61 fucking kills.
Yeah. Skadoodle, same performance as normal. No change. He's always fairly average like that. But the three guys in the middle, absolute shit the entire event. So this is the problem. If you're in a scenario where, I mean, I think for them to beat any of the top teams, they need like most of those guys to turn up. Like that one thing I actually was amazed by at the Major was that it wasn't just like automatic and Stu 2K went ham, won every round. No, they actually had such a widespread performance that the downside in that is it's not likely it's going to happen that often, is it? Like, you're going to have to get like 4 guys to play well. So reasonably, it's not the end of the world. Like, I don't even think it's that terrible as much as FaZe and SK, you're allowed to lose to them. Mousesports did win the fucking tournament. But this is really bad signs if you want to like find out the average level of Cloud9, because this tells you more for me than the Major does.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think, you know, they needed to sort of bounce back at Katowice and make a statement that this was just one of those, you know, we got unlucky in the draw or whatever, but it just didn't, it's not happening so fast. So losing to Team Liquid again, not a good sign for the power balance in NA. So yeah, Cloud9 very much in the middle of the pack, finishing 9th to 11th here. I do want to talk a little bit.
By the way, one other thing to just throw in on Cloud9 as well.
Yeah, go for it.
This is the other reason why I could be as bold as to say I didn't think they'd win tournaments, is because when they won at the Major, and they were so good on the 2 key maps that won them that Major was Overpass and Inferno. They were unusually good. Now the Inferno one, not a lot of people have figured that out. I think they mainly just had a great file, but it still seems to be one of their better maps. I think I'll admit that's getting legit. But their Overpass, I know they won it, all those key maps on it at the Major. I'm not buying it that map's that great. I think that was just like, they're an all right team on it. I think it's in the middle of their map pool. They've had some good wins. Maybe they can beat certain opponents on it. But I have big issues thinking that they've nailed that. So again, that's another reason why I don't think they're going to be the Major Cloud9, because I think for whatever reason, it's like you sometimes have it happen in sports. Some team who has a bad defense to just stand on their head in the playoffs, do really well, great. It's just not going to continue, is it? It's not going to be the same next season. So I think they will turn out to have map pool issues again, as in they won't be like to be as good as they want to be without having like the best players in the world. Because remember, that's the one reason why it's not reasonable to expect them to be the best. Even Automatic's not going to match up to Simple, fucking Cold Zero, you know. So they're not going to have the best players. You've got to either have a really good map pool or really good tactics. And I don't see them having like top tier in either. So I think they're a very well-rounded team. They'll be a good team. Maybe they can have the odd tournament, but I think there's too many factors to go against them being like the best team or having a chance at it, really.
So a couple of quick questions, and then we'll start really talking about what this was all about, which was the fucking Simple show. Hellraisers. Yeah. Do we need to revise what we think we know about this team? Because I've been mega critical of them at every step of the way. When this roster was first put together, I was like, fuck.
Well, the thing about Hellraisers, you have to say immediately is, I think it was even the first 3 series, they did not have Issa, which is like one of their best players right now. He wasn't there at the event.
No, but Issa is specifically the player I fucking mocked, because I was like,
I think it's red personally, but...
Well, no, I was like, they're even picking up players from bloody Jordan now. Who the fuck's this Issa guy? Well, it turns out he was really fucking good. And, you know, it was a very ignorant thing of me to say. Because, you know, I was just gambling on the fact that because he's from Jordan, he wouldn't be particularly good because there's, like, no scene in that part of the world. And many people have tried to get it up and running, and it's never really clicked. But Issa is a fucking legit player. Certainly belongs in that middle of the pack, lower end of tier 1. The only bad thing about this Hellraisers team for me is Dead Fox, who still looks a little bit out of his
unbelievably bad, mate.
Well, I saw him. Yeah, go on.
I'm not exaggerating. I've said this before. It is just sort like the more games I watch, this doesn't change. He is one of the worst pro players I think I've ever seen. But as I've said in the past, what's mad about him is, like, how would I describe this? Here's the simplest way to describe it, right? Every now and then he has a map that's really good. But the fact that if you then go and look at the stats, they are appalling, tells you that that's all he ever does. He has that one map. Everything else is so fucking bad that it's making the overall stats terrible.
Yeah. I mean, look, I actually saw a tweet, and it was like Dead Fox talks about his journey to becoming a pro player. I'm like, only in the fact that you get paid, mate, because you are off the level for me. But I think there's actually, now that we know Woxic is legit and Issa is legit,
that's a good sign.
Yeah, and Angel, like,
here's the thing: there's no reason to have Dead Fox anymore. Just get another flare in, you'll be decent.
Yeah, I honestly think Hellraisers could be one of those surprise teams in 2018 if they cut the dead wood, which is Dead Fox. Like, they're not going to win any fucking tournaments, but they're definitely going to have a big say in who does, and I think they're one of the upcoming teams right now, which is hilarious. I never thought I'd be fucking saying that. Never thought those words would be coming out of my mouth. And another quick question is, obviously Renegades got Jacob in, and I was joking, going, they didn't call that motherfucker Jenkum. Had a pretty good tournament. Like, clearly, whatever personal problems have been dogging him and impacting on his form, they weren't there for this tournament, at least. I'm not going to say he's back, because obviously you need to produce it consistently. He's only got a 6-month contract with Renegades. I think that's a good move. Keeps him hungry. Should keep him in the zone. But he played really, really well, and Renegades sort of surprised me a little bit. I thought they punched above their weight a little bit at this tournament, considering how strong a field it was.
They definitely did, but with that said, like, I would say that they were one of the teams that benefited from the lack of reseeding. Like, if you look at the teams they beat Fnatic, Tyloo, and Hellraisers. So, like, of all the teams in the playoffs, they had the wackest run. I mean, I guess you could argue Na'Vi didn't have exactly the best run either, but the difference is Na'Vi was good in some of the losses. So, like, Renegades overall did decently. I will say, though, as much as people are going to want to look at this and go, oh, there's chances for them, this might sound sad, but the day that NAF went out that fucking door is when all those chances of Renegades being a top team exited the team.
He weren't playing like that, though. He weren't playing like how he's playing right now. NAF's one of the best players in the world right now, if you take the last
he was still pretty good. It's just he was playing bad teams, mate. So the problem is, like, as a team, they're all right. Like, they look like half decent in terms of map pool. They seem to have a decent structure. I think Nifty does a good job. My big problem with that team still is I still don't think they have enough firepower. I think that's one of the things they've massively lost from losing NAF. Jacob definitely can't replace NAF in that sense. So my issue with them is I think they could be a solid team, but they're like the team that I'll have to battle to be like low top 10 for me.
Yeah, well, yeah, possibly. But yeah, I agree. Like, fucking NAF was a big loss. It's a shame it couldn't work out. See some people in the chat as well saying they should just kick Castillo. I think this is one of his better tournaments, honestly. He hasn't played this well in a long time. So, someone definitly lit a fire.
One of the big problems they will always have in that team is that, first of all, you can't kick Azza. He's probably the most talented player in the team right now. But that guy is such a fucking seesaw player. It is unreal. Like, he's one of those players where I don't know him personally, but if I had to guess, I would guess he is just an absolute mess mentally in these games, because he's either fucking sick or he's just average as fuck. And the problem is, if you keep him in the long term, you get both. You get both of them. And then one of them is a nightmare. The other one, you'd really wish you could see more.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I don't know who you kick from that team, quite frankly.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's like sort of a similar story with JKS. Remember when JKS was the clutch master? Do you remember those days? Like, you don't see him as much anymore.
He's still a good player. His problem, I think, as well, is he's another player where he's mega quiet. So I have to imagine, I mean, you don't want that from a star player, really,
No. So look, let's talk a little bit about FaZe as well. Like, FaZe apparently me and you were FaZe fanboys, right?
Apparently. I've never been a fan of them in my entire life. Literally, you know what's so sad, Rich? I wish this had come out. Yeah. After ESL won New York, I did an interview with someone that never got released because they fucked up the recording. And in the recording, I even say, I do realize, yes, that they've just won this tournament without losing a map and they've monster fucked everyone, but I'm not a believer. And I actually don't think they'll go on to be like the best team ever. In fact, I don't think they'll win many more tournaments. I think they'll win maybe a couple when everything goes perfect. And I said to the person, the reason why I have to tell you that is because everything I know about Counter-Strike tells me this can't be the permanent number one team. This can't be the team that wins every event, because what they don't have that all those other permanent number one teams had is they have no fallback. Their fallback is plan A, which is frag the fuck out of trouble. And so when they have those tournaments where enough players don't do well, or someone meets them who's got, I mean, the prescience of this is unreal, because obviously essentially SK fits the bill of this, or they meet people who can stick with them into the late rounds, as it were, and force them to win like hard clutches, to do comebacks on halves that they're not good on. I said, this is when it just won't happen for them, unfortunately. And I realized in saying that, it's sad the interview never came out, because obviously I would have gotten the most shit ever, Rich, because they would have come straight back to the E-League Premier, won that undefeated, and every idiot would have gone, you're a fucking moron, you didn't know anything. But I would have been so right in the end, it would have been unreal. Because as you saw, in fact, actually, Lerpiss did an article on this today, which was about the fact that FaZe is a team that had an era, they literally had their era right in front of them. They had it on a plate in front of them. They made like 6 finals in 10 events or something, semi-finals 7 times. They were in a final that they were 1 round from winning. They were in a final that they were 1 map from winning with NIP. There's so many scenarios that they were this close from being like, you know, instant top 3 team to ever play the game. But because they were always that far away for these reasons, they ended up being what I think is like, I've never seen a team this skilled that's so fragile, put it that way. If they break, they just break completely.
And look, I gotta wonder, you know, like they talk about this in like the NFL, you know, missing rings, because you know you obviously you only get so many shots at a fucking Super Bowl, and when you miss out, it can be a fucking killer. It can kill teams. You know, you've got all that momentum going into it, all that belief, everything seems aligned. You've got all your fans behind you. You go there, and it comes down to one game, one moment, right? It can be one fucking play. It's why I love NFL. Effectively, but if you don't win when it's your time to win, just go ask Na'Vi, go ask Guardian. You know, he'll fucking tell you. Sometimes you don't get a chance again, and I wonder about FaZe here, because it's like I think they're in this mindset where they think there'll be plenty of other trophies, there'll be plenty of other majors. Not necessarily so. It is a fucking ever-shifting landscape, my friends, and when you're out in front, everybody is doing everything they can to sort of overtake you. So when I watched them at this event, I was thinking to myself, like, you know, I could see, you know, FaZe maybe going far in it, but I don't know. I didn't get that same vibe about them winning. Like I say, I thought this was going to be like Mouse Sports maybe in the final. You know, it kind of felt that there was just something about this event that was going to throw up some surprises. Definitely didn't see Na'Vi coming.
The sick thing is, obviously, like they still were in the semi-finals of the tournament. So this is the bad part about being FaZe, right? Is like, I saw Guardian tweeted you. Well, guess what, Guardian? Buckle up, because until this team becomes shit, you are going to get this level of scrutiny every day of your motherfucking life as a pro. Because, as I just laid out, your team has all the indicators to say historically great, best team in the world now, win every tournament. So every time you don't do it, that is the way we have to frame it. Because you're not like Team Liquid, who did a good job to get top 4, and maybe could have gone to... No, you are supposed to. The second SK Gaming and G2 get eliminated, this is your tournament to lose, and you have lost another in a row. And unfortunately, that phrase, you have lost the tournament. It's not that the other people won it. Mouse Sports never had to play you. You lost this tournament.
Yeah, fucking right. And here's the thing, you know, look, people should have seen this coming. I know people don't put a lot of stock in online CS, but FaZe played Na'Vi twice just ahead of this event. And one of the things that people always fucking say, and I'll get Sam to bring these fucking games up, because I was watching these, and when I saw this game come up again, and then again at this event, I was like, I'm telling you, you want to fucking watch out for this, because people have historically accused Simple of being like some kid that just shits on the small teams, but never turns up in big games, goes missing against Astralis, goes missing against SK, goes missing against FaZe. Those days are over. Actually, Simple's best performances come against the teams when you know, they're the underdogs. It's unreal. So just look at the numbers here in this. They played each other twice, because that's obviously the format for how it works. And they won one map 16-6, where Simple had 31 kills, 141 ADR, right? And then in another game that they played, which was a 25-23 double overtime for Na'Vi, Simple had 48 kills Again, top fragging out of anybody on that server. Your Nikos, your Range, your Guardians, your Olafs, your Electronics, your Flamies. Flamey, 18 kills, same as Carrigan in that game. Simple is ascended, right? And it was always there that Na'Vi could potentially beat FaZe. So, sure, FaZe are the fucking favorites. But what do you do when the guy who is better than anyone on FaZe just decides, like, fuck it, you ain't winning
Which,
today?
by the way, is another reason why that matchup, because obviously when they play at the major, it didn't matter. They just wrecked him anyway. But this is the part that you're worried about if you FaZe. That's the one thing you can pretty much always say against everyone except SK. Well, at least we have the best player.
Yeah. I mean, but it's still mad. It is still fucking mad when you break it down. That, like, obviously FaZe were able to get a series win, which, by the way, Simple top fragged in again, a 2-1 prior to them in the rematch. And I was super confident that FaZe was going to go on and Na'Vi
would. Sure. I thought so, yeah.
I even tweeted it out, and of course, you can't see the future, you're an idiot, right? So I was just confident FaZe would beat them again because strength in depth is definitely not Na'Vi's forte here. But the problem, like, this is the worry. FaZe is meant to be a super team. You got bodied by a Superman. That's a fucking problem. That is a mega problem. If one guy on a god, because these players exist, it's not just Simple. You could see, like, Fur is super close. Fur could probably dismantle you right now. Maybe Kenny S gets back to where he is and fucking dismantles you right now. Maybe Shox has his surgery and comes back, and suddenly it's French CS we're all raving about again. You know, maybe some young kid just comes from fucking nowhere. If you're getting absolutely fucking wrecked like that by literally one guy, and you cannot find a way to exploit the team that is clearly inferior in almost every other area to you, forget an era. You're never going to have one. I don't know if you agree.
I mean, I would say this, like, the part that concerns me is like this isn't a get out for FaZe, but I will say this. Like, I realized they didn't win the tournament, but at this tournament, no team could stop Simple. Like, what's nuts is, I'm sure we're going to talk about this in a minute anyway, so I won't go too ham on it. It's coming there. But unlike every other player, pretty much almost every other player I can think of, like, this is the reason why, actually, in a mad way, I always held Kenny S in like a special category above even Olaf Meister and Shox and fucking Get Right and all that, is because Kenny S also had the same quality Simple has now, which is that you couldn't stop him. Now, you could in theory, at least with Kenny S, because in theory, if he didn't have an AWP, I guess in theory he was stopped on that round. But Simple, it's impossible to play him. Like, people have tried giving him different looks and do different things. It doesn't matter. So unfortunately, in a way, it is poetic from everything you said, because Simple was the guy who had to come along. And sure, by the way, it's not even my team that's beating you right now. It's just me. It is just me. Like, you might think maybe my team figured some out on T side, or maybe the map pulls, but it isn't. It's just all me. Didn't. So it's just me who's doing this. And if I can do this to you, as you say, yeah, you're right. There's no saying it can't happen from other teams. Because remember now, the problem FaZe has is, a couple of months ago, I would have said, no problem, you just got SK. So you know what? SK might lose a few times. I know every idiot fan was like, they won't. They'll be in the final every time and they'll always beat them. Guess what? They haven't made a fucking final since you little cunt said that. Haven't done anything. But now what's worrying me is, it's not even them. And it's not even GT. Yeah. Now you've lost to Nip, Cloud9 and Na'Vi. Yeah. You know, you are mortal now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The idea that you were saying, like I say, keep in mind, Na'Vi is awful. Let's start by talking about Na'Vi now. Fuck it, let's segue in, because this is if you're a true Na'Vi fan, if you're all about the yellow and black, right, like for real, right, like not just a Simple fanboy or whatever. This tournament run to the final is the worst thing that could have happened.
This fucking format exposed your team so hard, because think about how many maps I believe they played 22 maps. You know how that's possible, Rich? Because these motherfuckers could never 2-0 anyone. It was always 3 maps all day long with these guys. Not only that, we're talking about 3 maps that would have like overtimes and close games. The sheer wear and tear. If they were a solid team, this would have proved it, this tournament. And what's mad is they absolutely could have won this tournament. They were so close. It was right there. Simple gave them everything. But this is what sounds mad. Every time me and Natu would do analysis of the Na'Vi games, because we watched a lot of them on our stream, actually, we would always come away having to say what sounds so mad to say to someone. Like, listen, fans, I know you're thinking they got 8 rounds on this map, or they got 70 rounds. It's a map that they don't play. I know on paper that tells you they should be pretty decent. And these T-sides don't exist. I'm telling you, they're 7 rounds where, you know, Simple has to get an opening kill every single time, then clutch the round. Like, that's the sort of shit we're talking about. So actually, Simple's play showed showed how bad fucking Navi is. That he did basically probably the biggest hard carry performance over a tournament we've ever had, and still you couldn't win because you guys collectively did everything that you could do to limit the motherfucker.
And listen, let me tell you, a lot of people were giving Zeus a hard time. I put a tweet out saying you can't have Zeus and Edward in the team. And certainly, I haven't seen anything from Zeus's tactics to say he's a tactical mastermind. But let me tell you something. Numbers can be fucking deceptive. We always get told, oh, all you do is read the kill charts and stuff. Edward, in that game on Mirage against Mouse, had a pretty decent scoreline. Let me bring up the exact numbers for you. On Mirage, Edward had, let me get there, right, yeah, Edward actually had 25 kills, right, which you think, hey, that's not bad. I mean, Electronic had 22, right? So Edward is outperforming this young star you paid 6 figures for. So obviously Edward is good. I wish Henry was here. He'd tell you, this fucker made so many unbelievable mistakes that a player of his level and experience should not be making. I am talking running down fucking, catwalk where there's no trade potential and just dying, running through smokes, hoping to get lucky, terrible positioning, needless aggression, pushing on eco rounds because he's so mind fucked that he wants the stat pad, right? You're a fucking veteran. The days of, I've got to get a high score, that shouldn't be there. That's fucking pathetic. That's child, rookie, amateur bullshit, right? Like, it's so mind-blowing that Edward, who was on one of the greatest 1.6 teams ever, is such an absolute amateur when it comes to this type of shit. So you can be mad at Zeus, and yes, he was absolutely garbage in the final, especially on Mirage. And certainly his T-sides are lacking. But Edward is meant to be an experienced veteran pro showing the young guys how it's done. And when their exuberance fails, he's meant to be the fucking fail-safe. He's meant to be the safety net. He's not. He is a fucking major problem here. And unfortunately, because you've gone to the final, guess what? Yeah. Hey, if we did it with this team, we can do it all the time. No, Simple was on another level. This 5, as it is, cannot go to another fucking final or win a tournament because Simple, it's not human to maintain what he did.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. Like, here's the sad thing. People think I only do this when it's a team I don't like. Like, they think because Nip or Cloud9 wins that I'm just hating on them. If Na'Vi had won this tournament, I would have done one of those traditional videos I do. This team wins the tournament. And half of the video would be explaining how this tournament proved they will never do that again. Like, they could, because the problem is, every time they were in trouble, every time they got, didn't close a map that they needed to, someone, nearly always Simple, would have the amazing next map that would do it and would get all the key clutch rounds. And the mad thing is, in this tournament, Edward I remember against FaZe on the second map, Overpass, he had a bunch of clutches he won that were like really big. The sad thing is, the couple of things he did right will distract people from how many times he did stuff badly. And I totally agree with the characterization. The worst thing about the mistakes he makes is they smack of like desperation, of like someone who thinks, right, I've got to make a play. Whereas actually it's making players that's fucking everything up. Like, what's mad is that's one of those scenarios where everyone's had this game before, matchmaking, right? Where you're playing, it's people at your level, it's going really badly. You're not getting any kills. Every time you do spray a guy, you needed one extra bullet, but he kills you first. You know what you do in those games if you actually still want to win the game? You figure out how to let yourself be carried. You try to help someone, to back them up, to throw smoke for them, to cover their back when they're doing something. What you have to do is say, this guy might be able to... I will definitely lose if I try playing and taking duels and stuff. But maybe this motherfucker could carry me. And if you do a good job doing that, you'll be amazed how many times you actually scrape a win and you go, fuck, I didn't really deserve those points, but I did.
Which equally is so mind-blowing in that last round where Zeus took the fucking AK over Simple, giving him a CZ. You just want to fucking scream, mate.
Yeah, this is my point. In this game more than any, this might be the ultimate example in all of world Counter-Strike history. If you guys had just played a little bit safer, not died, and just tried to team play a bit more, the guy was going to hand you the trophy on a fucking silver platter, and you would have now gotten to say I'm a champion when you in no context deserve to be a champion.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, listen, I don't know how you can sort of, because I'm ragging on Edward. Zeus is still definitely a problem, right? Keep in mind, what do we know about Zeus? He's been in that team before, and he's had issues with those players before, and they've said we don't like his leadership style before, and then he went away, and then we all got duped, didn't we? Because he won a major with Gambit, and we thought, fucking hell, maybe Zeus is a motherfucking mastermind. Nah, let me tell you. Gambit, right now I'm going to revise the revision. Yes. Gambit gave him a massive fucking helping hand, quite clearly, because he's come back to a better Na'Vi side than he's ever had to work with in terms of just raw potential, and he can't do fuck all with it. He's got the best player in the world in 2018, one of the best young players in the world in 2018, and finally fucking Flamey's shown up. Or your only drag factor is fucking Edward, who you've played with for years and should know, like, you're a fucking one of your fucking ex-wives, and you fucking can't get anything out of that team.
No, the most worrying thing about this as well, Rich, is if you look at the nature of how they played, as I said, their T-sides were actually pretty terrible. Like, what's sad is, if they ever did the old classic Na'Vi, like, they're grinding down the clock. They weren't. That's the way Na'Vi used to do it was logical. The reason the clock ran down when Na'Vi with Starix and Zeus as the in-game leaders and coaches used to work is because the whole round was setting up for map control. Then when you had the map control, you maybe make a fake that draws someone away. Then when you know he's gone, you execute. When you execute, every flash goes off. Everyone looks in the right direction, and you make an opening that Guardian could go. Yeah, all these things had a reason to them. What they were doing now was the time would run down because they did nothing. They would just sit behind a smoke, waiting for it to go, and then no one's pulled from this site. 20 seconds. I think there's time to run to the other site. Run to the other one. Like the amount of times time ran out, or they ran into a site, one guy got killed, and therefore you couldn't plant the bomb. It was really shameful shit. And then basically some of the only good T rounds were actually fast players. Because think about it, you got Simple. Why not play a fast fucking contact player? Let him kill the first guy. You're open. You're in.
That's all they had though. It was literally, if Simple doesn't get a double opener, you're not even going to fucking see the bomb site. And somehow we just did it.
Yeah. No, this is also why I was going to say that I would have made the video saying that the team that just won the tournament was fucking appalling. Because their T side was Simple entering with an AWP. As in, he would run with an AWP, jump into a spot where sometimes another AWP is watching him. Like, you do know, logically, the guy who's the really good AWPer watching that spot just has to move like 5 millimeters to the right and get a kill while the other guy's waiting to land, scout out the other person, right, zoom in and then shoot that's how unreal Simple was. Like, it was like he was the most OP offensive tool you could possibly have.
Yeah, I mean, and look, like, we've got to wax lyrical more about the guy because, like you say, this is the hardest fucking carry performance I've seen from anybody. It just goes to show as well this stupid idea.
Especially when you add in the number of maps. Like 22 maps.
Yeah. It's mad. That consistent level is
That's
insane.
Like playing 2 straight tournaments in a row and never having a dip in form.
No, it was unbelievable. And look,
I'll just add this in quickly on the T-side thing. If you want to see what I mean about how Simple carried their T-side, here's the map you watch. Go to the elimination series in the 5th one against Heroic. And on Mirage, the second map, Na'Vi's up, I think, 1-0. And on the second map, Mirage, on CT side of Mirage, it was like the final. Simple goes ham. He had like 26 kills or something. And then on the second half, he had a really bad half for once in the tournament. He had 1 kill in the whole half. And Na'Vi, I think, win 0 rounds.
Yeah.
That's all you need. Disappeared.
They are right now. Like, don't get me wrong. I thought Flamey had a good tournament as well, and the Simple Flamey duo is pretty much key to this team because, like, Flamey isn't close to Simple's level, but he's good enough. He's very, very good right now. But listen, people. There's so many people out there. Like, Simple is obviously a flawed human being. He's done some shit in the past. Obviously, he's not proud of it. But he's turned a corner. And there's so many people who would have like seen him castigated and driven out the scene and not on a fucking pro team. Think about what you'd be missing right now. I've never seen a player like this since like say the God tier days of 1.6, Forest in 1.6. That's what we're talking about here. Pistols, AWPs, rifles, whatever the fuck you put in his hand, he can get you a 3K with it every round consistently.
Yeah, I remember a round in the final. Team. Right, okay, so obviously the other best player in the final was Oscar from Mousesports. He's obviously another very good player. The difference is Oscar is a very good player. I remember one round when Na'Vi was losing on Mirage, when fucking Simples ran up to where the AWPers peek each other from the connector to that area and just killed Oscar with a fucking deagle headshot. So with a deagle, he can out-duel this guy. Like, it's unreal, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I remember that one. That was so fucking ridiculous.
And when I was watching that map, that Mirage game in the final, because obviously that's the one that they should have won with Simple's performance, but they just blew it and they basically blew the final as a result. That what he was doing on CT side there, I can't even blame Mouse Sports. I don't know what you do against that. Like, they were giving him a different look every time. They were putting their star players against him. Like, they were putting, we flashed him off the box. He's trapped behind this box now, right? Rops, you go to the left, I go to the right. And he would just peek out. And his flicks were the most impossible flicks ever. Because even Kenny S aims the fucking gun before firing it. It's like he aims it. He has that, like, he shows how bad Go TV can be. Because when he fires the AWP, it looks like he pressed mouse 1 before the crosshair was on him. It makes Go TV look shit. Yeah, it's not even a problem for anyone else.
No, he's on another level right now. Like, I think anybody that wants to make an argument that he's not the best player in the world is gonna have to fucking work real hard for me. Now, the key is, first of all, obviously he's on a failing team. How many times is he going to get to show it? You kind of feel when you're on this level, you've got to win fucking tournaments, and it didn't happen for him. And it's a tragedy. Like, I didn't want Na'Vi to win this event because I think the idea of players who are so fundamentally poor being carried by a godlike performance, it never sits right with me. Also, I don't like passengers.
Here's the thing that would have tilted me, Rich. Believe it or not, I also agree. I'm glad they didn't win. And this is why. Because every little cunt who still hates Simple for some bizarre insecurity in themselves would have used the fact that they would have won this to justify every time they didn't win that it was his fault, you know.
Yeah, you're probably right. And like, people are asking, like, can Simple go further in the chat? How much further can you go in fucking Counter-Strike?
No one's gone further. There we go. I've solved that for you. No one.
Yeah. Like, listen, you have to understand, right? Like, me and Duncan have been in this game a long time, and like when I'm talking about what Forest was like in 1.6, if you didn't see it, you wouldn't fucking believe it if I told you. This was precision, pixel accurate aim that nobody in the game possessed it when he was in his ascendancy. You go back before and you think about what Neo did, how he invented ways to play the game. That's how iconic these players are. In CSGO, nobody has played like this. Not 2016 Cold Zero, not 2015 Olofmeister, not fucking 2014 Get Right. Nobody has done this.
Here's the sickest thing as well, Rich, is like, okay, my biggest problem always with Cold Zero has been that, like, okay, if you want a player to like win championships, yeah, he should be one of your first picks because he's so well-rounded, he's so intelligent, he never dips below a certain performance level. But I will say this, and this will probably get me hit, but I don't give a fuck, I've always thought it. His numbers actually don't really match up with what the eye test shows you when you watch the game. When you watch the game, you could easily be forgiven for thinking that he was like what Crims is now, like really solid, well-rounded player who's just smart as fuck, really solid aim. But when you look at the numbers, you'd be like, holy fuck, this is the greatest carry of all time. But when you watch the actual game, yeah, clutches, they're cool. Yeah, but he's had so many games where they've lost and he had those numbers. And I watched the game and I was like, he did all right in this game, but this wasn't like the monster carry performance. The difference is when Simple does it, he gets the same numbers and then the impact is off the fucking charts, mate. Like, he was literally, he could enter all day long. He could kill everyone with a CZ or his Eagle. He could clutch all the rounds he needed to. He could get multi-kill rounds, or he could just get you one round, kill every round. He could literally do everything you could do. And then I'll add in that part of the reason why I actually never used to go too hard at people who criticised him back when he first joined Na'Vi in 2016 is because, yes, I do think as good as he was, he sometimes took liberties. Like, sometimes he was a little bit too aggro, or sometimes he gambled in a way where it's like a player as good as you could have gotten 3 kills there, but you got the 2 and then you went too ham on the third one. I can't say that anymore because every time he does what now at the beginning of the move looks like the wrong move to me, it turns out to be a better move than I could ever imagine because no one else has had the skill set to do the shit he's doing right now. So at this point, I can't even criticize any of the moves he does because it's like he's reinvented the game. It's unfair.
Yeah. No, it is bonkers. The level is on. And like you say, crazy doesn't get a tournament win. Let's talk about the winners. Like I say, I had Mouse Sports when I was looking at how the bracket was going to break down. I had Mouse Sports actually going to the final. I think they're a team that is definitely.
I think they would have beaten SK if they'd have played it. Anyone who thinks that Liquid just did them a favor, they would have beaten SK. I'm telling you.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I think they're entering that form now. This is where you find out how far you're going to go as a team. because this is the peak of mouse sports. We've never seen this roster play this well. All the little fucking idiots that were saying Stico is worse than fucking Dennis and other nonsense, they don't understand like Stico's role in the team. Yeah, maybe you could get yourself a statistical upgrade, but he is sort of in a way like a fucking budget Zipnix. He clutched so many fucking rounds and had some unbelievable impact kills. So even though he was at the bottom of the frag charts the entire fucking time, I thought Stico had a very fucking solid tournament.
Anyone who tells you that, like Dennis, I mean, by the way, we're not talking about the Dennis that could have joined, the fucking Swedish one. Like I might have even gone for that move myself. We're all about the Dennis, the German one. Anyone who thinks that he was better than Stico, like you're watching the wrong game, mate. Especially because he was not only bad, as I've said many times, he wasn't even good at playing a supportive style. Stico, on the other hand, literally plays a supportive style. That's all he's done, and he actually has a mega good attitude for doing it. So I have to say, right now, he's an example of where until I see what happens with the rest of their careers, I'm almost certain he has a positive effect on people like Rops and Sonny and these players who are still integrating themselves into the game.
Yeah, definitely. But like, I mean, just in terms of like where this team has sort of come from, like here's one player that like, yeah, we'll all talk about Rops. It's amazing. There's plenty more chapters in Rops' story. Oscar, we know him. He's a bit of a strange guy, but one of the best AWPers in the world and cementing it and doing it consistently. Sonny, huge surprise for me because, you know, he always played in these Finnish teams and like I just never, or you know, not so good teams. And I just always thought it's easy to shine when everyone else around you is fucking garbage. But actually, Sonny is worth his weight in gold just for what he does on a fucking pistol round or an eco round alone. But here's what I want to talk about. Here's the key to mouse sports. Chris J is playing out of his motherfucking mind. And it makes no sense because this is a guy who's been at the organization for 4 years, seemingly uncuttable. He should be comfortable. He should be lazy. He should be complacent. He's just been given the in-game leader role, so he should be learning that, and it should be wrecking his fragging. And he was an AWPer for how long? And he had his AWP took off him and told, guess what, motherfucker? You're rifling again. This guy's the star carry of the fucking team, despite all of that.
In the final, it was at least, yeah.
Well, I think overall, I think in this current iteration of mouse sports, I think Chris J is actually the linchpin player for me.
If you mean in terms of like holding it together, I'd definitely give him a lot of credit. Like again, when we say that they're like a poor man's FaZe, they are for me. Like they've got really sick players. They do it by committee, but they're not quite as good players as FaZe. But the key part with that is, I mean, sadly, this is why you can never. It's like, you know, certain teams where there's that saying like you can only win if you win. If you're Carrigan, you can only win in FaZe, I'm afraid, if you lift the trophy. Because even if you lift the trophy, some cunt will say they just carried you and you did nothing. It's like they'll never know what you did because it's a different type of in-game leading working with stars like that. And it actually is a type of in-game leading. It's a very difficult one as well. It's the same shit people always said about like, you only bloody. Phil Jackson only won because he had Kobe Bryant and Michael. Yeah, they never won any championships with anyone else, by the way. Just go ahead and know that. Understand that and understand other people had them at times when they could have, when they had like skills to do it, you know. So it's a skill set. And that's why I actually have a lot of respect for Chris J in that sense, because first of all, they've got an half-decent T-sides. He actually plays a key role in it, bizarrely. He also still secondary ops in the team. And then admittedly, yes, if you look at the stats, he doesn't carry overall. But if you saw in that final, he's the only reason on mouse sports why they didn't just automatically lose to the simple god tier performance anyway. Yeah, he started fucking cooking at the end of that game.
Oh, it was unbelievable. And look, not only that, this is how you know when you're talking about good players. You know when like good players just have things that they've figured out but no one else has. Like, for example, you might see how like G2 are doing this at the moment with MBK and the Krieg, and they're trying to create a new meta for themselves. And certainly they were one of the original pistol teams that really showed like pistols can be dominant and force buys can be the shit. Well, Chris J has got two weapons down like nothing I've ever seen. The Scout is the obvious one.
Yes.
Right? But he uses an MP9 like it's a fucking rifle. He's good for a kill every time that gun is in his hands. That's mental.
That's the farm gun, by the way. That gives you mad money.
Yeah, that, you know, he's getting 3Ks on eco rounds or force buy rounds, and that's getting the money going again because only he... Oh, sorry, MP7, my bad. MP7, not MP9. Look, bring the MP5 back.
Okay.
So we all know what the fucking MP is, right?
By the way, no one uses the MP7 as well. It's the whole point.
Yeah. That's what I meant. So yeah, the MP7. So you know, imagine it, right? Like you're getting fucking just the economy starting single-handedly because you put a terrible shit gun in your hand, and you've been able to fucking dominate opponents with it. I think Chris J is a fucking absolute beast. I think he's like one of the best players overall in terms of his value to his org, to his franchise in World Counter-Strike right now.
The thing is, though, what makes that team really exciting to me is that they also are like a poor man's FaZe in as much as they really do it by committee. Like those 3 stars, Oscar's obviously the primary one, especially because he's an AWPer. If you're ever an AWPer and you're really good, you can just game change all day long because he's out, just because of the nature of the weapon. But Sonny is like really smart player, like really solid fundamentals. Rops obviously has nuts aim and definitely can exhibit in the game. Also, let's give this guy fucking credit. This has to be one of the best pro entries ever to the scene. Like, I'm talking, this is better than Stewie 2K's entry. Because even Stewie 2K would have, like, games in the final or whatever where he'd be a letdown or just an all right player. Rops has just literally just gotten better every fucking month he's played the game. It's outrageous. So those 3 stars are there for you all day long. Like, I will say Oscar sometimes has mad games where he just seems like, I don't know if tilted is the right word, but he just goes mentally out of it. So I wouldn't want to rely on him, but you don't have to with these players. So then you add in, I will say the other factor to them that concerns me, this is the same problem FaZe had, is like I do feel like they also have like a limited map pool. Like if they get the right maps, that's why for me matchup is so key for them. If they get the right maps, I absolutely think they can beat loads of these teams. But for example, I think they were actually happy that fucking FaZe didn't make the final, because if FaZe had come to the final, FaZe was going to be making them play cash, and then FaZe was going to be trying to bang a cheeky bit of overpass in there, and then they could have maybe picked nuke. You know, it wouldn't have been as good as some of those past times. So I think the key for me is, like, put it this way, if I had to bet right now, who does better by the end of the, I'd take Mouse over Cloud9 right now.
Yeah, you know what? If that was the bet, I'd fucking take that right now. I love what they're doing. I love like just the attitude they have when they're playing. They're so fucking calm these days. Like you say, Rops, this is a player. He's got no tenure. Why is he so calm in finals? Why has he got that? He's got hunger like no kid I've ever seen as well. Like, you know, you see these NA rookies come through and they're like, oh, we love winning. Now, are you fucking crushed when you lose? Rops is fucking absolutely crushed when he loses. It hurts him. I haven't seen that in young players like that in a long, long time. I think that kid's got a fucking bright future. So, look, we need to start wrapping up the show. We've hit our 2 hours. So let's get that third, fourth playoff place thing out the way, and then we can just move. Like, you know, look, listen, just because they happen in other mainstream sporting events doesn't mean we need to have them in esports, right? Especially in Counter-Strike. I can't think of one I've ever watched. I mean, NBK did tweet at me saying the G2 Astralis one that they had was a decent series. Well, it's definitely the exception that proves the rule then. You know, and it's good of those players to try. But here's the thing, right? The money difference, when you divide it by 5 and maybe the org takes a cut, it's so I know it sounds awful but these are pro players. They make a lot of money. Like an extra 15 grand divided by 5, watered down, it doesn't even come close to a fraction of their salary. You're not going to motivate them on the money alone. And all the people tweeting going, I wish someone would bloody give me 15 grand. Like, you don't fucking know
exactly
up from down, you silly cunt. So stop being stupid. You're not a pro player, are you? There are great people who make money for fucking great things that, you know, normal people don't make. That's life, you know? You're not going to get offered 15 grand to go and play in a final because you're shit. It's never going to happen for you, you idiot. But, you know, 15 grand, 50 grand. What they should do, if you are serious about it, and I don't think you should be, I think there should be some sort of, like, you know, fucking winner takes all bullshit. Like, if you think money's a prime motivator, do that. But for me, what should be happening, if you've got to fill time as a tournament organizer, why not have like a fucking all-star game, right? Where, like, you know, players are in the tournament, they're all told you got to stick around till the end, and you might get drafted into the all-star game, it's in your contract, and you put bounties up. Top killer gets fucking, you know, 20 grand, all for you. That's a month's salary. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking, right? Person who gets the most knives, make it entertaining. You know, team that wins doesn't even need to get something. You can just make it about who performs well on the individual all-star basis. So everybody's trying to outperform each other.
That actually would have worked at this tournament. As far as I know, the only team that went home was Fnatic, because every other team stayed because you got a practice room. So everyone stayed to practice each other and go to Katowice, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, because they had to, right? So it's like you take all the best things about watching FPL and Rank S pickup matches and you distill it down to its fucking raw essence. Yes, people will be baiting thing, but it is fun. And sure, there's money at stake, and people will bait for frags, and maybe there will be some fire and some banter, but it's all raw fucking entertainment. You get some casters in, it gets the crowd, hyped and stuff, and you can put in a few little things like number of team kills. There's a forfeit involved. Whatever you have to do to make it entertaining. But I'd rather you went down that route than fucking doing what you're doing with these third and fourth place playoff matches. Because sure, you might have got some straight fire rounds in overtime Inferno, but that was it. Like 2/3 of that series, if not 3/4 of that series, was absolute dog shit to watch. There was no energy.
Oh, it was one of the worst series of the tournament.
Yeah, and the players weren't having a good time. They didn't want to be there, especially with another tournament round. So, third, fourth place playoffs for me are terrible. Like, you've got to get rid of them.
No, they shouldn't exist. Like, here's the thing. I understand. Like, here's the thing. If they worked, I would agree with them. Of course, I'd like to know who was the third best team. Like, I'd like to know, for example, if you just got a hard bracket draw and really you would have been in the fight. Yeah, that's a cool thing to know. Unfortunately, these do not tell us that. They are universally some of the worst games we have. Secondly, I actually thought SLTV, that Panda guy, gave some very good reasons as to why they did it. Because what happened was someone said to him, basically, like, why don't you just do like a best of 5 final and then just scratch the third place game? And he made a good point. I think it was Lerpiss who said to him, but he made a good point that was like, well, first of all, we don't like best of 5 because it's impossible to schedule in prime time without potentially ruining your event, because you don't want it to go quick 3-0 and therefore ends before prime time. But if you schedule it in prime time, now you can end at 2 in the morning. He actually made some great points that were the sort of thing that unfortunately you have to be a tournament organizer to know. Like, I'll admit, I wouldn't have thought of that necessarily. So he wanted to have something. He obviously didn't want it to be an all-star match in that scenario. So yeah, I would just say don't do it. I mean, here's the thing. If you want to do third place game, well, it already exists. You need to do a double elim tournament, because the reason it works there is it's just part of the elim tournament. Both teams can still win the competition, so they still try, but you find out who was placed third because one doesn't go to the final. But odds are you're not going to do that. And then I'll say as a final point on this, the reason why I don't go too hard on the third place thing is because I already think you have to give Starladder props for doing the best of 3 Swiss system, which no one else said you could do and said there wouldn't be time for, etc. So I already think you got to give them props for taking a step forwards in terms of format, which I think was great. So if that's the one thing you can sort of bang on them at the end, fair play. I'll give them a pass on that one.
So look, let's do one question from one of our $100 patrons. Right. The question from Dr. Skriller and Mr. Gay Icon. Like I say, that's us too, by the way, and he's took that name. He says, with how you've talked about the tournament organizers and how they should try different formats, do you think it's time somebody took a chance at hosting a chargers-only format, CO rules as they know, or would the risks outweigh the positives of a CO format? Now, for those that don't know, the charge-only format, well, it originally started in hostage maps, right? So it had to be a hostage map. You had to... What was it? It was only the offensive... Only
T rounds count.
Yeah,
you basically play 20 minutes each side, only T rounds count.
Yeah, so the CTs have to run in, get the hostages out, and but yeah, only the T rounds count.
But it's bomb defusal that you use.
Oh well, no, but I remember them being hostages though.
Well, I mean, maybe in the early days, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it started out as a hostage thing.
But it's D-Mod. Yeah. So here's the thing, okay? Like, I've made a video on this on my channel where I explain why it would be good and why I think it would even be cool, and I even explain the very weird circumstances of why it was in the scene and then why it disappeared. It's all abstract shit, so people can go watch that on the channel if they want. But what I would say is this: I like the concept, and if I had a choice, maybe I would go back in time and change it so it was the main mode. I think I had a lot of positives that I think were superior, but the main issue is, I think you'd have a very hard time making it good. We've just talked about third place, fourth place games. Unfortunately, if things don't fire pro players up, they're not going to give you a good game, I'm afraid. So by the way, same as third place games, I also tell you, any type of show match, any show match in history, they're all shit. I've watched 99% of them. Maybe 2 of them ever were good. It doesn't matter even if they were rivals, 2 best players in the world. Nothing, somehow it psychologically doesn't matter as much. In the same reason as to why it's actually a brilliant thing that FaZe failed the major final, because it meant that much to them in that moment that they could not control themselves and win like they normally do. That's why matches that don't have all those intangibles won't ever matter as much. So the reason I'm going to say I don't want it to happen is because unfortunately I don't think doing one tournament in it would have any impact. You wouldn't have enough time to really learn it and get it down. You wouldn't figure out all the aspects. People wouldn't feel comfortable enough in it that I think they'd do a good job with it. So I know what you mean. Let's do a one-off to see if it's cool. But bizarrely, you'd almost have to just switch the whole scene to it to really make it work. If you did, listen, I'll go ahead and be bold and say I think it would be better for Counter-Strike and you'd have a way better scene. But that's just a bold opinion. And there's no point doing a one-off, I'm afraid. And also, likewise, I don't think you'd get enough teams that'd go to it. I think a lot of them would just skip it and go fuck it. Not least because there's a quick last point. Generally, players will always think in the short term. So even a team that I could tell you'd be better in this, they would go, nah, I'm already good in the mode that we have. So they would never want to do it and never embrace it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with most of that. I would just add that if you're going to do it, you need to have like a huge prize pool, like some sort of stipulation that
was winner takes all. It'd have to be like $1 million for first.
Yeah, and you know, you would have to accept that it's a bit of fun. Maybe teams aren't going to take it seriously. Maybe you're going to get some pugs and some mixed teams thrown together. If you can handle it being like some sort of like Bush League tournament with big money and a bit of a wild, kind of wacky rule set, then absolutely fine. You know, I've said I would like to see like MR9 fucking brought back from like the CGS era, where it's like you basically just don't manage your economy. You start with 16K, it's first to 10. The games are super quick, super aggro.
See, now you've brought up something that's interesting. This is what someone could do if they wanted to do tournaments. Yeah. If you want to do a one-off tournament, do something like that. Do either like a tournament like you're saying, where you have full economy and let's just see who wins off executes. Or how about likewise, similarly, another format for a tournament, one where maybe you don't get full money, but you just don't have pistol rounds. You just start with enough to have buying off the bat.
I actually want pistol rounds out of the game.
Yeah, these would all be cool things to try, I think.
Yeah. I want pistol rounds out of the game because they're too heavily weighted. Winning one round should not give you 3-0 and economy control that you can lose the next two potentially before you have to eco. I don't like it. Anyway, but that's for another show. Right. Let's thank all of our patrons. That made it possible, of course. Our $100 patrons, Detlef Insomniac, he's the top dog right now with $200. Dr. Skriller and Mr. Gay Icon, who asked that question. Chris Enwin, Jerky's Minion, and Mateus Pietkowski. To our $50 patrons, Whoa Tough Guy, Richard Hennessy, Benakagi Assassin, who's also a sub on the channel. Shout out to you. Keith Miller, Nostradamus, long-standing supporter. COWO, Daniel Plamanov Yordanov, Carlos Garcia Firm, Marcus Kyumpar, Sard Sawar, Funky Boy, and William Southern. That was another episode of By the Numbers. We should be back same time next week where we're going to be talking about Katowice and any other crazy shit. Maybe we'll get a guest. We keep dreading to do that. Who fucking knows? But make sure you tune in and we'll see you next time.